fire for your mind. The Kosher Clinician.
It's a hard thing to admit, but it's understandable why they would choose to go their own way. And that's what's scary, is there's actually a rational reason why they would do that.
Men going their own way. And you can think what you want about it, but this is a really big problem for women, for us, for our future, for families, for you to find a partner. If a population of good men are walking away because they're fed up with women.
If you're being told all your life that you are bad and wrong just for being a man, and that you have toxic masculinity for being a man, and that, women, there's this famous expression that, a woman needs a man just like a fish needs a bicycle. And that men are basically useless. And that men are terrible, and that, women are superior.
Our society is very callous towards men. The only message most men hear in the world is that they're a bumbling buffoon. The TV shows are full of idiot men. Commercials show men as buffoons. The society is against them. All they hear about is what idiots men are.
It's the mass of women that are taking over the culture and representing women. They're loud. They're mean. They say they want equality. Why are they not protesting in the streets for the changing the laws for alimony or child support or child custody? Because they don't want equality. They want superiority.
The male gender has more of a slave state, and it's because men are now subjugated to the law and to women, and nobody really believes it except the men who go through, say, the court. But most men think that they're exempt from that until they end up in a bad situation.
So for a lot of the men, and a lot of them have gotten screwed over in terrible relationships and divorces and gotten their kids taken away from them. So it's an understandable response.
In the United States of America, as a man, you can't speak up. I think most women tend to be I'm stereotyping, but they tend to be more collectivist. They tend to sort of be more in that socialist mindset. So I don't know that you're going to see a huge change. I think the change will have to come from men.
The lives of women will not change until the men get the opportunity to also examine and define and change their lives. In many ways, I sometimes think that the 20th century was the century where the women made all these massive changes, and the 21st century will be the changes that the men will make, partly in adaptation to the changes that the women have done.
And those men are doing something about it. They're saying, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm not getting married, or I'm divorced. They don't sit around just trying to live their life through women. They actually have lots of hobbies. They go out, they buy that land you were talking about. They're out there getting motorcycles. They're having a good time, and they're enjoying life without having to deal with the stress of the women and the society that tells them they have to have a woman in their life.
How would you feel? I mean, you're not going to feel that attracted to a woman or care to be loving towards her or romantic towards her. So this men going their own way is a reaction to that. I really think it's a rational reaction to that. Men are finally like, hey, we've given you all you want. You are equal in every way, and then you're still shaming us.
All right, guys, we're going to get into it on today, as I won't be before you long, but the question that we're talking about on today could be asked, is the coldest winter ever upon us? And if the coldest winter ever is upon us, what does it mean for relationships? What does it mean for men that plan to stay in America? And what does it mean for the women that are looking for good men and looking for husbands long term? Because it appears that many are beginning to check out. Let's do it. Us. Was Kelly Samuels Nostradamus, or was it something that was foretold years ago, now coming to fruition? All right, guys, we're going to get into it on today. We're going to get into it, and it's a pleasure, guys, to have you guys tuning in to the Culture Clinician as I drop some fire for your mind. This is going to be
fire for your mind.
We're going to recalibrate and look at the things that are going on in society and the things that are going on in the world as it relates to relationships, as it relates to modern women, as it relates to the lack of self-awareness, but also the thinking errors that so many have as it relates to understanding the struggles and the things that good quality men want. As a male advocate, I don't advocate for men that are not productive, men that are causing chaos. I don't advocate for those men. My show is for a select group of men that are hardworking blue-collar men, the working class men, the white-collar men that are decent brothers, man. Not perfect, because I'm not perfect, but they're good men. And that's what I advocate for. I advocate for that. And these shows are important, guys, because when we fail to understand what men want in relationships, when we fail to understand the struggles of heteronormative masculinity, then you will never have homogeny or balance in relationships. And, Kevin Samuels more or less parroted a concept that many men had talked about for years, many content creators had talked about, but he did a great job in amplifying the concepts. And the amplification was more or less based on the horizon or the harbingers that could be coming, because sadly, some of our women, not all, but some of our women lack the self-awareness when it comes to relationships. If you want a good relationship, you have to be self-aware. You have to be aware of the product that you're dealing with. You have to be aware of the man that you're dealing with if you want to get the best outcomes. But you can't get the best outcomes if you don't hear what that man is saying. You won't get the best outcomes if you're selfish. If you have not conditioned yourself to understand what men want and what men like, then you will become woefully ignorant in the evolution of relationships. And these shows are important because thinking errors are prevalent and very pervasive in many relationships. Those thinking errors impede or reduce people from seeing what others want. And because of that, they become very flabbergasted when they realize what men are saying. And men are beginning to speak more, men are beginning to wake up. And there's a slow evolution of men that are beginning to demand more and beginning to say, if you don't meet my standards, then you can't be with me. So once again, this conversation, the point, shout out to my man, Dr. Thunder. How you doing, brother? And we're going to get deep into it. So hold tight. Conversation is very important. And guys, do me a favor, share the content, please. Share the stream if you don't mind. Share the stream, because this year and going forward could be some of the coldest winters ever. Inflation at an all-time high. The passport movement is becoming greater and stronger. The passport movement is becoming more greater and stronger. Men are beginning to understand what their worth is. And they did a study, guys, that said in the next 20 years, about 2033 or beyond, women will be without children and also without a husband. And we get it. Some women don't want marriage. And so those women that don't want marriage, shout out to them. Marriage is not for every woman. Some women don't want to be married, and that's fine. But to the women that want to be married, what are you willing to render into a hardworking, noble, adequate man? Have you been adequately taught and trained to deal with a suitable, noble, and a man that's respectful? Are you willing to give what's necessary to cater to your man? Or are you in a state of despair, in a state of ignorance when it comes down to what men want in relationships? These conversations are important because it's going to change the trajectory of society, and also it's going to change the trajectory of communities. You know, and I know you can't have a strong community when people are fragmented. But sadly, the generations that we have now have not adequately taught our women how to respond to the needs of solid, hardworking men. And because of that, you know, men are saying enough is enough. Some are saying when Kevin was living, you know, he talked about the coldest winter ever. He talked about winter was coming. Some said it was a euphemism. Some even mocked him and said winter came to him and he died alone. And whether that's true or not is irrelevant if you're serious about relationships. As a therapist, one of the things I try to do when it comes down to dealing with people is to get people to see how the error of their way plays a role in their progress or the lack thereof. Some people take heed to what I'm saying and some don't take heed because they're not willing to do the self-introspection. If they will look at themselves and see the pathologies that lie within their mind, body, soul, and spirit, it will cause them to be in a state of shock. But one of the things that women that are serious about relationships moving forward in 2023 got to understand is that there's a percentage of men that are evolving. They are beginning to demand more. They're beginning to want more. And they're not going to tolerate mediocrity anymore. You know, I've heard some women say, adjust your crown. And see, I don't have a problem with a woman saying adjust her crown because men too are beginning to adjust their crown. They're beginning to understand that there is a king inside of them that needs to be satiated. And that satiation only comes from a woman that understands how men think, has been trained to understand how men think, but also a woman that have the requisite soft skills to not only pour into a man, but also to speak life into that man as it relates to a cohesive relationship. But see, just like the banner in the back, women are shocked when men begin to speak because for so long, no one ever told them what men really wanted. And so when they hear men that come in these male spaces talking about Your weight got to be right. Your body count can't be too high. We don't want women with kids by other men. Then it becomes a problem because they're not used to hearing what men want and what men think. They've been so conditioned to hear what they want to hear instead of hearing what men really want and what men really think. And you guys are going to see how liberal policies have been not only aversive to the evolution of healthy relationships in modern times, but liberal policies also, guys, continue to carry or more or less add on to the stigma, but also the deprivation of men and women coming together and becoming better. Once again, you cannot have a cohesive unit. You cannot have a cohesive relationship until you understand what men want, but also how men think and why they think the way that they think. Men and women, we don't think alike. We think different for reasons. And that's why these conversations are so important. But the question remains, is the coldest winter ever upon us going forward in 2023 and beyond? I would say I think it's possible that it could be, because things don't look as bright as they used to look. And once again, my war cry is not to those that don't want relationships. If you don't want to be married, if you want to be single, then I'm not talking to you. Do you have fun? This is only for women that want to be married at some point in their lives. And you guys are beginning to see that women thought that homes and cars and careers alone made them happy, but it doesn't. There's nothing wrong with having those things, but those things alone does not make man or woman happy, because human beings are social creatures. We were made to be together, and human beings are better together than separate. And I succinctly believe that a lot of men, they want good women and want good relationships. But what they are saying is that they don't feel like that the typical woman living in modern times have the proper or the requisite soft skills to give a man what he wants, which in essence is leading to some of the coldest winters ever moving forward. Sister Soldier wrote a book, guys, back in the past. She was a rapper, Sister Soldier, and she talked about the coldest winter ever because she was talking about how life was in the ghetto. But to parrot that, we could talk about the coldest winter ever as it relates to relationships, as it relates to the so-called faltering black community that has dissipated or no longer exists. We could talk about that type of black community or that type of coldest winter ever. Because the reports are coming out, we're beginning to see it more or less than we ever have before in the past, that relationships are taking a dive. And they're not as strong as they used to be. Guys, do me a favor, hit the like button, share this content. If you have not donated to the channel, donate. We're going to get deeper into it in a minute. And thank you to the 20 that are watching as we try to add balance and have a powerful conversation. Shout out to my man, Brandon Jett. Brandon Jett said this was one of Kevin's best streams. Winter is coming. And the long night, they were back-to-back streams manifested right before our eyes, no doubt. Shout out to my man, Top Gun. My man Zoomer Generation said, I will send for a lady without the weave and makeup. I hear you, dog. Should have sent it off. Shout out to my man XL Pro. Good to see him in the house. Shout out to him. But guys, let's get deep into it. We're going to get deep into it. I want to show you guys something. And you guys are going to see firsthand why men are beginning not only to check out, but men are beginning to say enough is enough. And one of the reasons why men are checking out also, guys, is because of the passport movement. The passport movement is causing a lot of men to check out. Hold tight.
You were missing something I had about is
the passport movement, guys, is causing a lot of men to check out. The passport movement has told men, listen, you ain't got to settle. You don't have to settle for mediocrity. You don't have to settle for women don't honor and respect you. You can demand what you want in a relationship, and you can demand what you want in a woman. That's the power of choice. One of the things we talk about, guys, in the clinical world is something called the right to self-determination. The right to self-determination simply means this: to live your life on your own terms, free of distress, free of ridicule, free of harm. And the proliferation of the passport movement is a response to men saying enough is enough. We're tired of not getting the things that we want in relationships. We're tired of being seen as tools or means to an end. Men are beginning to say that. And see, when you realize how much power that you have, then you begin to see how some of these women are beginning to come out and respond. Because the passport movement is a big movement. It's changing the game. And I'm going to do some more shows about the passport movement coming up soon, because the passport movement is a response to men getting their needs met. As I told you guys before in the past, Dr. Wim Glasser talked about needs. He said that needs drive behaviors. And I always use Dr. Glasser because Dr. Glasser was a contemporary psychoanalytic psychologist, and his points were well taken. Choice theory, reality therapy. Choices. Men need to have choices that are synonymous to their value system. When men have choices that are synonymous to their value system, therefore men can change the world. So choice theory leads to reality therapy. I'm not getting my needs met. What are my needs? Power, fun, freedom, belonging, and survival. And you're right, Carl. It's never enough, brother. You're right. He said, man, I make $130,000 after taxes, which is not a millionaire, but I've been called broke. I'm done. And you should be done, sir. You should be done, because what you're seeing is gross narcissism being manifested before your eyes. Guys, if you have any questions for me while I'm doing this show, send a super chat and I will read your comment. But I also will randomly read comments throughout the show because I want to make sure men are understanding the power and the need to speak out for what they want and speak out and demand what they want in relationships if they're going to get the best outcomes that are viable. So if you got any questions or comments, feel free to donate to the channel. But also what I'm going to do, I will randomly read comments as well.
Watch Game of Thrones, you were missing something I had about is similar size of cultural impact upon the world as Star Wars and The Godfather. So if you've chosen not to watch Game of Thrones for whatever reason, Winter is Coming are the words of House Stark. All the great houses of Westeros have words, a saying, a motto. And the House Stark is one of the oldest great houses in Westeros, dating almost back to the beginning of recorded history. Let me just say this. Man, if y'all haven't watched Game of Thrones, you're going to miss a lot of cultural impact. So I don't care why you haven't get caught up, because there are all kind of quotes.
And guys, art often imitates life. Game of Thrones was a type of art imitating life. And I think what Kevin was trying to say, he was more or less trying to take the art of Game of Thrones and tie it into how winter would not only impact many moving forward, but how winter also have beset many in their evolution when it comes down to relationships.
It's stuff that I see people on YouTube missing all the time because you're not plugged into the world. And it's kind of like use the force. If you haven't watched Star Wars, you missing out on a common language. Throw in the towel. If you haven't watched Rocky, you don't know what that means. So when somebody say, I woke up this morning and chose violence, it has something to do with this. When we say, winter is coming, the North remembers, Vala Margulis, Vala Doharis. There's all kind of stuff in this show that people walk around saying, just like leave the gun, take the cannoli. Okay, so that's my input. So why is this so important? Because I chose Game of Thrones because winter is coming is right, no matter how you put it. Even after and winter in Westeros is not winter in the United States. Winter in Westeros can last as few as a few months and as long.
Shout out to my man Brandon Jett. Brandon Jett said, no question from me at the Culture Clinician, just supporting the stream, and thank you for highlighting one of Kevin Samuel's best streams he ever did. Rest in peace to the Godfather. I appreciate it, brother. Thank you, sir. And that's a deal, right?
That's a deal,
right? You are the number one sponsor of this stream.
That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? Got 5 on it.
And also, thank you to my man Top Gun. He says, a blue-collar Mac, I vow to enjoy my drink, smoke while watching these heathens try to shovel snow. When it hit. Shout out to my man Top Gun. And Brandon Jett, because of your love offering your kindness, Brandon Jett, you are the number one sponsor of this stream. Thank you, sir.
It's the money.
And shout out to Gail Nelson for being in the house. And guys, as a licensed therapist, we talk about in the clinical world something called risk factors and protective factors. Many times you hear some women saying they don't need a man, but you do need a man. You may not need a man for a romantic relationship. You might not need a man for a romantic relationship, but you do need mankind. You need the plumber, you need the artisan, you need the civil engineer, you need the men that makes the toys that you enjoy. You need men, you need mankind. And many will see how their lack of understanding and value and cherishing men is going to come to their own demise. Hold tight.
As 100 years or 30 years. And when it happens to last a long, long time, it gets into a period of being called the long night. The long night is when winter came, and then when the imminent threat from the north of the wall is a geographical barrier between the frozen north, where the White Walkers live, and the rest of Westeros. It's where all this stuff happens, and that's where this story was set. This is a scene from episode 1. For the first time in hundreds of years, human beings actually saw what is called a White Walker. I want you to think of a White Walker as a zombie with superpowers. They're tall, they're strong, they're immortal. And one of their biggest powers is the Night King. He can reanimate corpses and add them to his army. There's so much import about Game of Thrones that we're going to get into. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, just kind of rock with it. Winter's coming, though, ladies. And what does it mean? Well, whenever Ned Stark or anybody from House Stark would say winter's coming, they're not wrong. Because eventually, even if summer is over, winter's coming back. And even if it's just over, it's coming back. If you're in the middle of it, it's coming back. And trust me, when winter comes, you want to be prepared, because bad things happen in the winter. Why?
And he used that as a template, but winter can also be seen, guys, as a euphemism. The euphemism means or symbolizes death. Winter always symbolizes death for many. The springtime symbolizes life. But you guys are beginning to see women like Taraji B. Henson break down, and I'm going to do a show on that at some point. But what you guys are beginning to see is that many women have been lied to because of liberal politics like feminism and other liberal policies that told women that, you can have fun, do what you want to do, and there's not a visceral consequence. But now men are beginning to see the consequence. Many women and men need therapy. They need therapy to help them understand the thinking errors that they're dealing with. But when you live in a society that continues to parade lies, when you live in a society where people are devoid of having truth, when you live in a society where people don't want to hear what you're trying to teach them, then people continue to go in that same negative circle over and over again.
Why am I saying winter is coming? Because, ladies, hot girl summer is about to be over. And like it or not, everything is coming to an end. For the last 2 years, we've lived under a global pandemic, recession, job slowdowns, unemployment, all things that people have been able to avoid because of long-term unemployment, rent moratoriums, but all that is over. After June 30th, the landlords aren't being mean, they want their money. And I want you guys to understand that there are people out there today, and in particular, we're talking to the ladies, who have not paid rent since March of 2020. August, the schools open. That means all those kids go back. That means there is no reason for you not to go back to work. And what's going to happen is so many women are going to go back to their jobs that they haven't been at for the longest, and they're going to find out that they have been replaced. Winter is coming. Yeah, the Night King. Yeah. The Night King. The Night King is the leader of the White Walkers. And it's an imminent threat. You can't kill these things because you can't kill them. They're difficult, they're almost impossible to kill. But why is this important? Because just like in any zombie movie, it's not something that can be avoided. It's not something that can be avoided. It's something that is an imminent threat, going to happen no matter.
And here's the crazy thing, guys, about the coldest winter ever. Many were warned, but many did not listen. Many were told what men wanted and what men needed, but many minimized what men wanted and needed. One of the greatest issues that we continue to have in society, but also in community, as I said earlier, is the lack of self-awareness and also the lack of understanding how men think and what men want in relationships. When we can clearly see and understand what men want, then we have a greater solace, we have a greater understanding, and relationships are stronger, and communities are a lot stronger. But when we fail to understand and see what men want because of the lack of self-awareness, winter will come upon us. What we thought we once had will continue to become fragmented. And just like the young man said, he makes $130,000 a year. And women say that's not enough. But what I would say to the women that have what's called relationship inflation, because that's what it is. What are you giving those men in return? What are you giving those men? Are you giving those men cooperation? Are you giving those men low bodies? Are you giving those men, no kids? Because see, a man making $130,000 a year is a top 5% earner, top 5 to 10% earner, or even higher. Those men don't have to settle for mediocrity. A man making that kind of money can go abroad and get a dowry and get him an African bride. And also he can get him a woman that understands what men want in relationships, because that woman has been raised based on the teachings of her elders. But the coldest winter ever comes upon us because of thinking errors, because of something that I've talked about in the past. And many times, guys, I see it in the clinical world, and I see it in practice. But many times, guys, it's something called this. Cognitive dissonance leads to the coldest winter ever. It basically means you can't hear what men are trying to say. And DEAF is the acronym that I created, and it stands for they deny the evidence, they become enraged when you present them with the evidence, they argue ad hominem attacks, and they fight you or they flee because they cannot hear what you are trying to say. Women years ago didn't struggle with cognitive dissonance because they were like Shirley Brown. They were saying, I was all for my man. They didn't mind giving their man or their man the best because they knew in giving their man the best, if he was a good man, it was going to benefit them. But see, a lot of these women are beginning to have psychic breaks because society lied to them. Society told them that, having fun and allow these ain't-ish men to use them would be forever. And that is not the truth, because everybody go through a stage of their development, and eventually that development can either be good or bad. But when you're going through a stage of your development and you don't go through each successive stage in a healthy way, you can get too comfortable in a stage of your development. And I sincerely believe that many modern women are in the stage of psychosocial development called not ego integrity, but intimacy versus isolation. They're still in that intimate stage, and they're vacillating between intimacy and isolation. They love intimacy, but then they're isolated. But they should be in the stage of the development called generavity versus stagnation. That's what Erickson talked about. Generavity means they're making progress. They're leaving a legacy for their future. Stagnation is what a lot of women are dealing with because they're not moving forward. They're not moving forward. They might be moving forward in their careers, but they're not moving forward in their spiritual, their social life, which is more important. And that's why when the coldest winter comes, it often besets many of them because they didn't see it coming. A lot of these women were fine back in high school. Some of these women didn't give you men the time of day. They saw you, they said you were lame, you were not good enough. And now because of the emergence of the passport movement, a lot of men are beginning to exercise their options and love themselves and get the best outcomes. And some can't handle that because some of these women, not all, but some of these women, whether they're white, whether they're black, they saw you as a lick. They didn't see you as nothing more than just a lick. You're just a lick. You're just a supply man. Somebody to make them feel good when the man that they want don't pay them any attention. And I'm going to tell you, men, something. You should never do that because what you're doing, you are devaluing yourself as a man. You should never devalue yourself for a man or woman, but especially women when it comes down to relationships.
No matter what and no matter what you say about it, whether you like it, whether you don't like it, it's going to happen. So just like the rest of us, what have you been doing for the last year to prepare for winter? Have you been stocking your money? What have you been doing? And the reality is many people gotta admit, particular women, they gotta admit they've been doing nothing. They haven't saved any of that money.
Shout out to my man Top Gun. He said their mental stage is hashtag bitch you crazy.
They've just been doing what they're doing because in our country, in the West, women have always been bailed out. Guess what? There's not enough money to bail anybody out anymore. Look at what the likes are, you guys. He's called Ned Stark, and he's teaching his son Brandon why he cut a man's head off who deserted the Night's Watch, the guys who guard the wall. He said, do you know why I did it? Well, because he deserted it. He's like, no, do you know why I did it? Why I cut his head off? He's like, the man who passed the judgment should swing the sword. Ladies, this information I'm kind of go over at a high level has been vetted by PhDs across the globe, several here on YouTube. This information that we're talking about, we have been talking about for years. Shout out to Master Teacher. He knows, I'm not going to say his name because I don't want him to get trolled. But the men have been talking about, when he came along and started saying, hey, I got a bunch of 92 octane men who need to get their image together. Can you come help coach my guys up? And the hell I went through talking to black men for the first 3 years about their image. So I find it funny when my critics and detractors say how mean you are to women, that you have no idea what a coach is. You want a nanny, and a coach helps you get better for an outcome. Anyway, as we move forward, he said he's been trying to tell folks that this global recession is about to happen. And what's about to happen has never been happened before, because we have had people who haven't had a job, who haven't had work for over a year and a half, haven't paid rent for over a year and a half. And they're going to go back and find out that they've been automated. They've been downsized. Companies haven't lost a lot of money. And in September of 2020, we had something called a She Session where we lost 880,000 jobs that are female. I'm going to have lots of data this week because you guys have been living in a fantasy land. You think that it's not going to happen. You think there's going to be some kind of bailout. There's going to be something else. There's going to be nothing. People right now are being put on the streets. In Dallas-Fort Worth, the constables are moving people out, putting their stuff on the front yard. You want to know what's coming, ladies? They're decriminalizing the oldest profession in the book. In New York City right now, the governor, the mayor said we're not going after people who are loitering the streets. So, like it or not, some parts of Manhattan, some parts of the 5 boroughs have been turned into right there in the streets. Go to World Star, you'll see the video yourself. Broad daylight, transactions happening on a stoplight. Guess what? That's New York. Guess where else it's about to come? California. States across the country, because why? There's not enough money to give to people. And if you're a woman and you have a regular job, you know, let's just look at it. If you were not an essential worker during the pandemic, you are at risk. I was in Neiman Marcus the day they shut the world down, And I had never seen panic like that before. And all those women's eyes, because many of them have been with that company for 10, 20, 10, 5, 10, 20, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. All they had done is retail. Neiman Marcus is on the verge of bankruptcy, and the only thing that saved Neiman Marcus was the pandemic. Those women over there know they are coming back. And when the world stops again, many of these 40-year-old women are not going to have a job to go to and have no skills in the environment. Ladies, winter is coming. Winter is coming. Winter is coming, and when winter comes, it does not, and this is not just the winter. We are heading into what I'm going to call the long night. It's not going to just be 3 months. It's not going to just be 6 months. We're talking about a global reset for the world. The world, I have been studying this for the better part of 2 years. Look at what's going on in South Korea and Japan. You think it's a joke? You think it's a game? There are villages in Japan where people are outnumbered by freaking dolls. I'm not kidding. Japan is dying. An aging population and a group of people who are not dating. They're not dating.
How is it sexism when we have no barriers today? So
all right, so we're going to get deeper into this, guys. And this was the show that Just Pearly had. And it's more or less, guys, highlight how feminism or feminism has played a role in the destruction of so many of our modern women. It's going to talk about how some have seen black men as the emissaries of oppression, but in reality, black men never had power when it relates to policy to oppress our women, especially men in the current generation, to say the least. One will argue that they have more liberties now than they had in any other time in human history. I'm going to show you guys something before I start this with Pearly. And I'm going to read through this article real quick. So, why more black women are choosing to be child-free? And it's for a myriad of reasons. I think part of it, guys, is because some can't find adequate romantic relationships they feel like, meet their needs. Some will say a man is not on their level, but is it because there are too choosy, some, and many don't think or many don't understand that what they're looking for, they don't meet the qualities of the men that they're saying that they want. So a woman's role throughout history, women were respected to become mothers. Many women, people believe that a woman's primary life and role in life was to bear children. Because of this, choosing to be child-free wasn't really a thing. Instead, women who did or could have children were often shunned by society. Not to mention, black women were forced to raise white babies in their own during slavery. Well, just like the burden of childhood was always something that was pressed upon a woman, the burden of providing was always something pressed upon a man. Men's traditional roles have never went away. We were always expected to be providers and protectors, and that's never went away. So is it safe to say that having a kid is bad? Well, theology said be fruitful and multiply. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to have children. But however, I think a lot of women begin to suffer because I think on a subconscious level, they do want to be mothers, but society is telling them something different. Now, I'm not saying that there's some that don't want kids, but I think there are more that want kids that don't want kids. But I think some have been trained and convinced that having children is a bad thing. And then some like the discipline to raise children because many are lazy and entitled. But look at the negative connotation. But not every woman wants to be barefoot and pregnant. Some want to be cool aunts. Others don't want to have anything to do with kids at all. And that's okay. And the negative stigma, barefoot and pregnant, that's a liberal talking point. But there was a time where women counted having children as something powerful, something noble. They saw it as something noble to have children. They didn't see having kids as something bad. But now having kids is seen as something bad or something negative, which I found to be very appalling, to say the least. But hold tight. All right, so according to the rise of the child-free woman, according to the 2022 survey of the Pew Research Center, almost half of 44 participants admitted that they are not likely to have children and that the number is steadily growing. In 2018, only 37% of participants admitted to not wanting children, a 7% drop in just 4 years. Now more than ever, women have the opportunity to decide what's best for them. And guess what, men? You should decide what's best for you as well. You should decide what's best for you as well. Because society tells women to do what's best for them, and I don't have a problem with that. A woman should do what's best for her. But men should always or also do what's best for them. If you don't want to be involved in a relationship, you shouldn't be involved. If you don't want to deal with women with kids, you should not do it. You should always do what's best for you, and don't let society try to shame you into a bad deal, because the sad thing is that society appears to have been giving some women the right to live their lives on their own terms, but when they come down to men living their lives on their own terms, it's an issue. Here are 6 reasons why more and more black women are opting to remain child-free. Children are expensive, and men, we understand that, especially you got to pay child support. Let's face it, having a child is expensive whether you want a child or not. According to data from Brookings in 2015, the cost to raise a child in a 2-parent middle-class income household was about $310,000. At one point, it was over $260,000. When you factor in saving a minimum of $22,000 for college, that number could skyrocket even higher. And I don't even advise men to go to 4-year colleges unless you know that you can get a good job coming out. I would advise 2-year schools or certifications first, because going to school could be a money trap. Brookings also reported that 4.6% of black children, Brookings reported that only 4.6% of black children, black families own homes compared to 75.8% of their white counterparts. But unfortunately, when it comes down to raising a child, housing is the largest expense. And that's why it's so important that women don't allow these worthless men, the men that are worthless, to impregnate them, and they don't use the proper protection to take care of themselves, because women are the gatekeepers to sex. You decide who you allow to enter into your body. Men are the gatekeepers to relationships. When you allow men that are not adequate enough to not only raise children but have kids, then you put yourself in a very negative predicament. Food is the second largest expense, taking up more than the quarter of the household income. And guys, they've been doing studies about that, where a lot of folks are struggling to just eat. They're struggling to pay for grocery bills because of inflation. And this all correlates or parallels to what Kevin has talked about, but what many men have talked about in male spaces for a while. Winter, once again, is a euphemism. And you begin to see the paradox of that euphemism, because many men are beginning to check out. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about in a minute. The struggle to breastfeed is real. Some women are struggling or don't want kids because they say that breastfeeding is very difficult. And they say it's very hard. They have a hard time breastfeeding. Hold tight. They have a hard time breastfeeding, many of them. Breastfeeding is an important part of motherhood. It helps the mother bond with her child while providing them with the nutrients that they need to grow strong and healthy. But unfortunately, for many women, the struggle to breastfeed is very real. And I would say to the women that are listening, breastfeeding is extremely important for a child, but it's also good for you because it helps your uterus shrink. It's good for the baby's immunity, but also it's good for the baby's intelligence. But I would advocate that you only do that in a committed relationship, hopefully with your husband. I pray that you're not having kids without the guidance of their fathers. According to the survey from What to Expect, more than half of 59 mothers admitted that breastfeeding was more challenging than expected. And even though a whopping 97% of those participants revealed that they seek breastfeeding support, 12% say they tried to breastfeed, but they couldn't. As a result, many women who surveyed admit to feeling high levels of stress in each of the search for help. All of my kids are breastfed by my wife. My wife did a good job breastfeeding my 3 girls, and I was happy that she was able to do it. But sadly, some just don't have the time or the patience to breastfeed. Throughout history, women have always been expected to become mothers, and even though the perspectives are shifting, women are still fighting for the option to say no. And that's fine, guys. Once again, I don't have a problem with women fighting for the right to say no. Men should fight for the right to say, I don't want to be a traditional father anymore. Men should fight for the right to say, I don't want to take care of other men's kids. Men should fight for the right to say, I just want to live my life and keep my money in my pocket until I can invest that money into a woman that meets my system or more or less meets my worldview. I don't have a problem with women having the right to say what they want. I believe in equality for men and women. If a man say I don't want to be in a relationship, then fine. He shouldn't be in a relationship. If he said I don't want to take care of women with kids, then he shouldn't have to do that. When this happens, you might engage in heated exchange with loved ones or just avoid family gatherings altogether. But it's perfectly fine to say no to having kids. In fact, having a child when you don't wish to become a mother can mean headache and resentment for you and your child. But see, here's the problem, guys. When men say or get with a woman where they were having casual carnal fun, I don't want a child, sometimes that woman will still have that child. And men, we don't get a right to say we want to keep that child or not. Men should have the right to say they don't want to be in a child's relationship, be in a child's life, or if they want to be in a child's life. But see, men don't have that option, and that's the hypocrisy of this so-called equality. Plus, it's okay to not want them. Maybe you prefer to travel the world. Perhaps you want to scale your career. And this is what's happened to a lot of women, guys. They thought that not having family would make them feel better. And we understand that the cost of living is very expensive, and it's a hard job. Raising kids is not easy in this society. So I do get it to some degree, but a lot of it that you're seeing now with a lot of modern women, guys, is just them being plain selfish. They're being more selfish than anything. They're being selfish because they don't value family and they don't value community anymore, sadly. The fear of the unknown is the most common fears in the world. It remains one of the top reasons why women are choosing to remain child-free. Morgan Stanley analysts reports that the movement to not have children owing to fears over climate change is growing and it impacts the fertility rates quicker than any preceding trend in the field of fertility decline. And, you know, there are women going to sperm banks to get men's semen, and they're realizing that men are not even going to sperm banks. They've done studies that said that the semen level or the sperm rates are even lower. Perhaps you should worry about bringing a child into an overpopulated world that will affect the environment, or maybe you're concerned about the extreme weather could impact your future child. Whatever the reason, many women choose to remain child-free to protect themselves and the world around them. The maternal mortality rate is high. For some women, labor and delivery is quick and relatively painless process, but for other majority of women, not so much. From vaginal tears to excessive bleeding, childbirth can seem downright scary, and for Black women, the reality can be even worse. The CDC reports that women are 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy complications than white women. Even celebrities such as Cardi B and Serena Williams have opened up about the difficulties of pregnancy. In a personal Vogue essay, Beyonce shares her experience. I was 218 pounds. The day I gave birth to Rumi and Sir, I was swollen from toxemia. I had been on bed rest for over a month. My health and my babies were in danger. She said, so I had an emergency C-section. She said, adding that I was in survival mode and did not grasp it until months later. And here's the big one, guys. And it talks about men checking out, and men are checking out for a myriad of reasons. The reason why dating is harder for some women is because some women feel like they are better than you. They feel like because you don't have higher education, then, you know, they're better than you. But the caveat to that is that if you truly believe in equality, if you're making more money than a man, then you should have a problem on paying more in the relationship. If you believe in being modern and a progressive woman, you shouldn't care because, you know, you said that you're equal to a man, so you shouldn't have a problem with, you know, paying more on majority of bills if you say you're equal to a man. But dating is harder. Dating is harder for a myriad of reasons because men are checking out, men are getting passports, but also the men that they want and the men that make the kind of money that they want is only a small percentage, and those men have more options. Looking at the dating landscape is pretty treacherous. Many women are finding that it's more challenging to find a suitable partner to date, let alone start a family. And they all go by that word partner because they don't understand the importance of being a wife. That's why I said I would never deal with women in the West if I was a single man because I'm traditional. I'm very traditional. I grew up in a traditional family. My mom and dad are still together. They've been married for over 50 years. And I just grew up in a time when people were more traditional. I'm the husband, you're the wife. My mission is to love you and die for you. Your mission is to honor and respect me as the leader of the family. And they want egalitarian relationships. That's why they use words like partner. A lot of women use that word. Some say it interchangeably. Some don't mean anything by it. They say it, but they don't mean nothing by it. But some do mean something by it, you know. And that's why to the men that make good money, you need to carefully vet. You need to know what your worth is because it can be very dangerous. According to the United States Census Bureau, marriage rates have steadily been declining for decades, especially in the black community. In 2020, nearly half of 47.5% of black women were unmarried, while 51% of black women were unmarried. Wow. Of course, marriage is the end goal for every woman, and many women who do want children are choosing to have them with or without a man's help, basically bringing a child in this world without the guidance and the love of a father, which is, in my opinion, calls into a lot of pathology and dysfunction, and it is weakening the fabric of black society, and it's causing a lot of distress, and it's unfortunate because children need fathers, they need men, they need the men, and they also need the women in relationships. But for the women looking to parent with a partner, the lack of dating is enough to put them off to having children all together. And this is what you're seeing, guys. So the lack of self-awareness, the evaluation of men and masculinity, men are not asking men what they want anymore in relationships. And because of that, men are checking out. Shout out to my man Top Gun. Hold tight. Shout out to my man Top Gun. He said that I predict a spike in cannibalism coming with these ladies. Let's be on isms. You may proceed, no doubt. I appreciate it, bro. And I totally agree. Asura C said that breastfeeding also helps with their weight. Yes, to snap back. Without it, they retain that water weight. There are also herbs to help assist with milk. We lost our old ways. Yes, fenugreek is one of them. Fenugreek is one of those that helps in relationships. Joe Jesse, they can stand on each other, Top Gun, but I will learn the hard way with men walking away. Yeah, men are walking away, guys. If you got a comment, feel free to donate, and I will read your comment. We're going to get deeper into it. So let's look at what Jess Pearly Things was saying, guys. She did a good job. Let's look at what Jess Pearly Things was talking about and this whole thing with the coldest winter ever.
No barriers. Who doesn't have barriers?
And how liberal policies have not only derided a lot of our women, but liberal policies have taught our women, which had no issue or had nothing to do. Black women didn't have anything to do with the struggle of white women as related to feminism. Black women had no issue with that, but yet they aligned themselves with the women. They aligned themselves with the women with the percentage of men that were so-called oppressing us as well. But we wonder why they are suffering the recompense. Because see, what these groups do, they use black women as a stepping stool to push their own agenda. I'm going to say this, and I need you guys to be clear when I'm saying this. Black people in general, people of the African diaspora, Americans of the African diaspora, should have a keen focus on their own issues only. Your issue should not be LGBTQ, even though your focus should be about black issues. Let them deal with their issues. You deal with your issues. Because they don't come to your rescue and support you when you're dealing with your issues. Or any other group. Let them deal with their issue, and black women need to stop participating in their issues, because what you're doing, you're crippling the black community, or so-called community, because it's dead, to say the least. There's no black community. It's gone. It's dead. It's broken irretrievably, never to come back again. But I want you guys to listen to the foolishness when you blend in many of these liberal talking points and you make it part of the black collective. Because the lack of self-awareness, guys, once again, is leading to the coldest winter ever.
Don't have barriers?
Women, yeah. What's
we have
stopping
no
you? You
barriers.
can do whatever you want.
I can,
you?
or you can.
What's stopping you?
And once again, that's the victim mentality. That's the victim mentality. that so many had. There was a good debate with Vice. I think Just Pearlstein did a good job with some of the conservative women on the panel. But by and large, a lot of our women have been influenced by a lot of this liberal stuff, man. And it's unfortunate. It's sad. It's very unfortunate. But hold tight. Let's finish listening. Hold tight.
Should we mark this bad boy at all?
Fair use.
Oh, here we go.
Hi, welcome everybody. I'm Liz Landers. I'm Vice News' chief political correspondent, and we are here today to talk about some of the biggest issues dividing women across the country. In other words, we're here to talk about feminism. First, I just want to say we know we can't represent everybody's views, but we did try our best to bring together a diverse group of women today. In today's polarized world, is feminism dead? I saw your hand.
I think that depends on the definition of feminism. I strongly think that feminism is more of an action than an identity. I would say it's uplifting all women, in which case it's very alive. At the same time...
Thank you, Brandon. I won't play too much of it, man. I'm not going to play too much of it. I won't play too much of it. I'm going to play this a little bit, and I'm just going to stop it. Because you're right, I might get it shut down. So thank you, Brandon. I appreciate that, man. I'll probably play about 5 more minutes of it. And then I'm just going to stop it all together. And I want you guys to get an idea of how crazy this thing is. But I won't play too much of it because, for whatever reason. But if you guys can see, this person is, you guys get the drift. So I'll leave it at that.
If we do follow that definition, feminism has splintered off into so many different areas that you can look at people like Sheryl Sandberg who say you should just get another nanny if you feel oppressed. And
so this is one of the reasons why, guys, and thank you, Brandon Jett, once again. He said, without capping the stream from Vice. Thank you, Brandon. I don't know how much of it to play. I know some people have played some of it, but I don't know if I can do 5 minutes of it. Yeah. So, you already know, man. You already know. Fair use.
And if we're talking about that kind of feminism, it's pretty dead.
Yeah, I mean, as long as the human race exists, feminism will never be dead. There's something that we're going to have to strive and work towards to make sure that there's equality. So feminism is not dead.
I don't know that it can die. As long as there's power and oppression, there will be people fighting.
And what you see, guys, in situations like this is always the victim narrative. Black men and black boys and men in general have been under attack for the last couple of years. But what you guys see always is the victim narrative. It's the victim narrative and the victimization of women. Some will argue we got a vice president now. Women are making more money than ever, even though they say there's a gender gap. The gender gap exists because, sadly, a lot of the jobs that men do, men work longer hours. They work more dangerous jobs. So the gap is perhaps due to those elements. But some will argue they have more rights now than ever. But a lot of our women have drunk the Kool-Aid. They've abandoned some of the more salient principles as it relates to they abandoned some of the most salient points of relationships. And some feel that, a percentage, and shout out to our good sisters, but a percentage of our women play a role into the destruction of our community and our family because of lack of self-awareness. But hold tight.
For equity. And until that somehow goes away, feminism is alive and well.
I think feminism isn't actually about equality. It's about equality when it benefits us. I think feminism is really about women wanting special privileges and treatment at the expense of men often. And I think it's alive and well, sadly.
And you can tell, guys, she doesn't like what Pearl was trying to say. See, traditional conservative women are the antithesis to a lot of this liberal foolishness. And it's always the victim mode because of the lack of self-awareness. It's always ego syntonia because of the lack of self-awareness. It's always the man's fault. It's always your fault. Some of you men that were born in the 80s had nothing to do with the so-called oppression. You didn't create the policies. You didn't create the laws. I didn't create the policies and the laws. So why am I being punished for something that I didn't have anything to do with? I wasn't even born. I wasn't even part of that generation. Make it make sense. But that's the cognitive dissonance. And because of that, now guys, and thank you, Brandon, for telling me about that. I'm not going to play all of it. I probably won't play no more because I'm scared that they shut it down. It's been the rise of the passport movement, man. The passport movement, and I've done a lot of shows on it. It's led in a lot of men to more or less break out. Passport movement caused an outrage among a bunch of women because of the behaviors that you saw associated with the woman that you guys saw in the street. Many men are getting passports now. The passport is the great equalizer. What men are saying that we are causing all the problems that you say that we're causing, then fine, we'll get our passports and we'll begin to travel abroad. Hold tight. Let me finish showing you guys.
I think feminism is also alive and well. There are different kinds of feminism, right? Like, that is obvious.
And guys, what you don't do, you don't keep arguing and debating with women like you saw a few minutes ago. If they don't believe in your worldview or your value system, just move on. Don't argue with them. Oh, you need to believe. Don't argue with them. Just move on. Because if you're traditional and you believe in traditional family and traditional relationships, then most modern women don't even meet your criteria in the first place. So don't argue with them. Just move on. Move on. Focus on yourself. And just like women should have the right to do what they want to do, I don't have a problem with that. Men should have the right to do what they want to do as well. Just move on. Well, I want you guys to see this video. I've done some shows. I'm going to do another big show about the rise of the passport movement, 2023 and beyond. And shout out to Big Trucker for this actual clip. Hold tight. Let's see if I can find it. All right, here we go.
What's sad to me and revealing, and my brothers are actually the ones that have brought this to my attention, right? But what's sad and revealing to me is the fact that when it comes to a lot of the modern women, and I hate to do this, but I have to, in America, why is it that there are not men from all over the world, from different countries, the whole nine, coming here to pursue us on a very serious level or at all, right? I'm not even hearing about men traveling to...
And that's a valid point. That's a very valid point. Foreign men are not checking for American women. Why would a foreign man that's a traditional man check for an American woman that's liberal and also very modern?
America to hit and quit. You know what I mean? Like, to me, that reveals the fact that when it comes to a lot of us right here in America, we are not ideal women to be with. We are not wifey material, if you will.
The story, new passport bros hashtag causes outrage amongst American women of color. While I am waiting for passport bros to go more and more mainstream, like basically I'll know passport bros is mainstream when I see it on the lame stream.
And it is going mainstream because it's a byproduct of what you guys saw a minute ago. Men are frustrated with the outcomes that they're dealing with. They're frustrated with not getting the respect that they need. They're frustrated with always their good never being good enough. So what men are saying, you know what, my good is not good enough. You know what, then I'm going to do something about it. I'm just going to check out. I'm going to stop I'm dealing with American women on the dating kaleidoscope. I'm going to focus on myself, and I'm going to get with women that honor and respect me as a man. So that's what they're doing. And you can't blame them because needs drives behaviors. Needs drive behaviors. And when men are not getting their needs met, then they have no other choice but to check out. You can't blame them.
Media such as MSNBC or CNN or even Fox News, or when I see them talking about it on The View, like with Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar and them, that's when I'll know Passport Bros is really, really mainstream. Right now, it's still not exactly mainstream. Like, it's just, I want to hear it on, like, when I go to sleep at night and I'm watching, like, television, I want to see, like, commercials coming on, like, oh, the Passport Bros are doing this. Like, I want to see those kind of commercials. Yeah, news at 11, that's what I'm waiting for. And it's coming. It's coming. So until I get what I want, I'm going to have to read about Passport Bros from these lesser journalists, quote unquote journalists, like this one, Shine My Crown. Apparently, all of these women think, I don't know how they got this idea. They're all queens. They're queens with a K, K-W-E-E-N-S. They're all queens. They're all empresses.
And that's the overriding sentiment. They say adjust their crown. They don't see you as good enough for them. And that's fine. That's why I tell you men to start loving yourself. That's why as a therapist I do the shows that I do, because I believe in male empowerment. There's a remnant of the good women that are left, but by and large, it's not enough. And because it's not enough, guys, you go to countries where you are valued and respected, and you don't give your pearls to swine. You give your pearls to women that are ladies, that honor and respect you as a man.
Every boss babes and empresses and this, that, and other. Well, if that was true, then I would hope that you pay back your student loans so that you're not holding 2/3 of the available student loans out of the almost $8 trillion worth of student loans. Since women hold 2/3 of that, I would also hope that you would stop getting evicted, stop ending up in shelters, maybe, and also stop losing your houses so that this way you don't have to come to me and my office and ask me, how can you avoid eviction? Do you know, I hate to brag about it and I hate to talk about them because I can't mention them because they're clients. But do you know how many women I've had to deal with recently with rent instability? A lot. And one of them right now, recently divorced, looking for a rental that's, what was it, like $2,800. And I was like, listen, I don't think that you can afford this based on what I see of your records and everything. And the thing about it is, she wanted a 2-bedroom, but she could only really afford the 1-bedroom, but she only can use that temporarily. And I'm like, it's like, maybe what you should have done was you should have tried to work things out with your hubby. That's just my guess. Maybe you should have tried to work things out. It's like there's people who I can't stand, but I learned a long time ago, one of those idioms that says, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. If you have someone who is in any way supporting you, like even my clients, some of my clients I fucking hate, but they pay. So I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. Some of them pay, some of them tip, some of them pay very well. So my thing is, for your own peace of mind, for your own, so that you don't have to give up everything that you've accumulated over the last whatever years of your life, maybe you should just try to work things out. But then, no, I'm a queen. I don't got to do that. I'm a queen. I can do bad all by myself. That's what they say. Tyler Perry and his movie.
And God, that's a lack of self-awareness. That's arrogance. That's hubris. That's the de-evaluation of men and masculinity. And because of that, that's causing them to continue to be in this perilous state that they're in. Once again, liberal policies, the lack of self-awareness, the lack of masculine fathers, and the overvaluing of themselves have sadly led some women to not see what their worth is, what men's worth is, which in essence is going to be a byproduct of the coldest winter ever. Guys, do me a favor. Shout out to Sir Hill Speaks in the building. Shout out to that brother. And also, guys, get the likes up, share the content, and donate to the channel. If you have not donated, I appreciate it. Let's get back right into it. Hold tight. Let's get back into it. Donate to the channel, please.
So, I mean, you can't tell them anything. My thing is, don't argue with them. Just do better than them. Just defeat them. That's it. It's like, don't argue. There's no point in arguing with them because they're not listening anyway. So anyway, new passport bros hashtag causes outrage amongst American women of color. Okay, so it says a trending hashtag on the internet has a growing group of users frustrated and flabbergasted about the role race plays in dating for American women of color. Passport Bros began as a way for black men to advise other black men where they could find traditional women in other countries. A simple search of Passport Bros on any social media platform will show hundreds of men describing their experiences with the opposite sex in other countries compared to those in the United States. I'm not going to watch the videos, but you might recognize some of these videos. Like I recognize her, I think, and I don't know this guy. But anyway, according to a report in Travel Noir, which is recent, black people have suffered through so many forms of prejudice in the United States that we've sought other countries to feel like human beings. The Passport Bros movement could be seen as an annex to the same inner peace and happiness concept. A group of black men who don't feel needed and admired by black women looking for love overseas. They travel to different destinations worldwide and find happiness with a partner of the opposite sex. I've always taught you never to right away accept somebody's premise. You should always challenge the premise. It says a group of black men who don't feel needed and admired by black women looking for love overseas. What it doesn't say, and what would make it more of a loaded comment, how about a group of black men who've decided that they don't want to risk their accumulated assets on an American court system that if they get married could divide their assets in half?
Right.
For someone who does not deserve to take half their assets. How about that? How about a group of black men who has decided that they're disgusted with fake hair, raptor claws, nose rings that have horrible boogers, mucus, and snot dripping down the rings, and women, for whatever reason, think this is cute. And their nose is looking disgusting like a bull. It's an oxbow ring through their nose, like their tribal leader on Black Panther 3. It's like, how about that? Like maybe the guys want, I don't know, real hair, long real hair. Maybe they want, I don't know, no makeup. Maybe they want no raptor claws. Why does the premise have to be that they've been rejected? This doesn't necessarily have to be that they feel unneeded and unadmired. No, what if they're just absolutely disgusted with what they have to choose for here? That's how I would phrase it. Okay, so I'm going to read this again. A group of black men who are disgusted with what they have to choose from in America have decided to look for love overseas. You see, that's how you reword a premise. You see, that was easy, right? Okay, they travel to different destinations worldwide and find happiness with a partner of the opposite sex. There you go. You see, that was easy, right? Okay. But some black women in America are not happy with the trending hashtag. On TikTok, several women, I think it's actually more like several dozen, have rebuffed claims that traveling outside is the best way to find women. My question there is, how do you know you're not a man? You have no idea what these foreign women are like. You're not a man experiencing these foreign women. So how would you know? Passport Bros. Wait, let me read.
And once again, guys, that's the minimization of masculinity when we minimize what our men want instead of asking men what they want and becoming what that man needs in order to become the best version of himself, you and that man together. But that's asking too much because many don't think that you deserve them. They think they're better than you. And it's okay. You should laugh at it. If they think they're better than you, then that's fine. My mission, once again, is only to a certain select group of men. Hardworking black men. Blue collar, white collar. Not perfect men, but they're good men trying to do the right thing. And good is subjective. But there's the typical guy that's put in the work. They just want a good woman. And they're saying enough is enough. And I'm keep telling you, man, you have more power than you realize. That's why so many are becoming so angry, because you are beginning to change your trajectory. you're doing what a lot of them are doing. That's why I read the article to you. Why black women are checking out. They're doing what's best for them. And that's fine. They should do what's best for them. But you should do what's best for you as well. If you don't want a woman that's had kids by multiple men, you shouldn't marry her. If you don't want a woman that's been ran through, you shouldn't deal with it. You got the right to say, I don't want that for my woman. But see, it's a problem when they have standards and you can't have standards. That's the difference. She can have standards, but you can't have standards. And they're trying to shame you into minimizing what your standards are.
It like a queen. I'm a queen. Passport bros are weak black men that don't know how to court strong black women, one user said. Okay, that's a queen for you. Here's a queen. We got a queen right here. Let me see. What's the queen saying? Let's see the queen. No. I don't want to go to TikTok. No. Let's see the queen.
This comment says slavery was a long, long time ago. And I've been waiting for this.
Let's take a ride. For it too.
You would think that since slavery was such a long, long time ago that each one of these squares would represent, 10.
All right, you know what? I don't even want to deal with this right now.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me just go back because I can't do this right now. I'll edit in a video clip or something. All right. So anyway, others said the hashtag was way more of a way to Others said the hashtag was way more of a way to fornicate with foreign women rather than settle down with them. Now, never mind the fact that I keep showing you married men that, we Passport Bros have a channel that's run by Pablo Frescobar, which is called Passport Bro Receipts. And we're showing like married black men. Okay, Passport Bro's true intentions aren't... No, wait. I got to read it like a queen. Passport Bro true intentions are to have sex with foreign women and they're not searching for love. Okay? And another woman believes that the Passport Bros trend is a subconscious way that black men emulate their white masters. Yeah, we remember that stupid-ass video. We remember that. Who have been notoriously known for colonizing. You're a colonizer.
But here's the hypocrisy, though, guys. But these are the same women that align themselves with the women of the colonizers that oppress them and oppress black men and women at the same time. Make it make sense. That's why I'm telling you, man, this damn liberal indoctrination is a mental illness, man. It's a mental illness, and it's very pervasive in some of these liberal schools. Because they cannot think outside of what they've been trained to think. It's okay to go to school if you can have your own worldview. You can think outside the populace, but many they can't do it, man. They can't do it, and it's unfortunate. Guys, share the content, get the likes up, and actually, the robot just came and told me. He said, Coach, tell them Negroes to get them likes up. Guys, do me a favor, get the likes up. The robot just text me. He said he got bills to pay, and I need you guys to do me a favor. Feed the algorithm and get the likes up. Thank you.
And going to third world countries to find submissive wives. Meanwhile, some women in foreign countries support the controversial hashtag, stating that some women in the Western world don't know how to treat their men. So we remember this chick right here. I put her on one of the videos, and she said Passport Bros should refer to themselves as Passport Kings. I believe she was a Filipina. That's the Filipina flag right there. And of course, you've got this, look at the nose ring. As soon as you see the nose ring, you already know what you're in for.
Are not being treated like a king. And why settle for someone who
Look
don't
at the
want to
nose
treat
ring.
you like a king?
Boogers
when you can go
and
to the
snot.
Philippines and be treated like one. And that is why people, not just my
And look at the
black
hair.
king,
The hair is
everyone I'm
Kool-Aid
talking
grape.
about, men
Not
who are
real.
unwanted
It's held
in
on by
your
the hat.
country
There's scotch
have to
tape
go to
in
the
the hat holding the
Philippines.
hair on.
And then they say,
because that hair is
we
frizzled
don't
and
care.
frazzled.
You can have
it was
our
purchased
leftovers. We
from
don't
an
care.
import store
But the
that
truth
imports
is,
hair
we
from Bangladesh.
Filipinas love leftover. Leftovers are the best. You know why? they can at least compare us. Whoa.
And see, God, this is what happens when you get validation versus the lack of validation. Remember, I told you Dr. William Glasser said that belonging is one of the critical elements that the human beings look for. Human beings want to feel like they belong. They also want to feel like they have power. Women from other countries have been trained to respect and honor their men and to make their men feel like they belong. But sadly, a percentage of our women, they believe the lie where men in the modern times have not had power to oppress no one. We didn't create laws, we didn't create policies, and we did not create the current malaise that we have now. But the victim narrative is strong, and it keeps a lot of people in a cycle of perpetual animation.
Oh, you guys are way
Silverine,
better
apparently.
than my ex or my ex-wife, per se. So guys, especially to the future kings of the Philippines, what are you waiting for? Look for your queens now. Because I can guarantee you, once you find your Filipina queen, you will automatically become a king.
Okay, I'm not even going to wait around to see what Silverine has to say because I honestly don't care. So next, some say American women lack femininity. And when these men get to these countries, they treat them like men should be treated. One user believes this. They proudly speak on their traditional...
And God, look at what these simps say. These simps say there, however, is a burgeoning group of black men that have spoken out against the passport bros, stating these men have no game. And these fools don't understand it has nothing to do with any game. Why would you use game on subpar women when you just can be yourself in other countries? Are there some men that might be socially awkward? Sure. But by and large, I think it's more average men that are dealing with subpar women that got higher standards and higher expectations. Women that 20, 30, 40 years ago would have been average women for average men. But it's crazy, man. It's really crazy, man. It's almost like a damn... like a circus, man.
Values and beliefs, even if they aren't from countries such as the United States and the United Kingdom. There are, however, a burgeoning group of black men who have spoken out against passport bros. These are simps and losers and cucks, the weakest of the weak. So I'm not going to read any of that. Stating that the men who support the hashtag, you ain't got no game. You ain't got no game. Yeah, well, your game is playing polyandry with your baby mama who's out sleeping with your best friend Ray Ray or your other friend Pookie. So between Pookie and Ray Ray, you're being cheated on. And she's forcing you to accept it because if you raise your voice against her and her
Sexism when we have no barrier. I don't.
Your apartment and probably in cuffs because you're a cuck and she's having the time of her life while your baby is in the house and she's doing her thing with Pookie or Ray Ray in the next room. Maybe it's Pookie and Ray Ray at the same time. You want to talk about game? Let me tell you something. There's a lot of these loser, quote unquote, dating coaches. I call them dating roaches who are on YouTube talking up polyandrous relationships, talking about how they're in an quote unquote open relationship. No, loser, you're a cuck and you're being used. And she's using someone else when she's not using you. That's the reality. Any of these dating roaches that you hear talking about these open relationships, you know who you are because I know who I'm thinking about. You're losers. And it's funny because some of you have been caught out in the street with these heavy set, body positive women. You know who you are. And you're busy talking up these open relationships.
And so, guys, that's just part of it. I'm going to get back to the clip with Pearly. But that's just part of it, why the coldest winter ever is becoming a new phenomenon. The coldest winter forever, 2023 and beyond, is becoming a new phenomenon. And it's becoming a new phenomenon because men are beginning to realize they do have inherent worth. They don't have to settle for mediocrity. They don't have to deal with bad behavior or bad attitudes. I'm going to give a special shout out to the good women that are striving to do the right thing. They're striving to be good women for good men. And but they just feel like they haven't found the right man yet. So shout out to you, sisters, because many times people are trying to shame good women like that. I'm not here to castigate or besmirch the good quality women that are listening. So shout out to you ladies that are striving to do the right thing. But on the flip side, I admonish you men not to settle for mediocrity as well.
That we can really term what's going on as feminism because it looks so different to, I think, the earlier feminist movements. So in that way, I would say it's taken its last breaths of life. It's dying.
Yeah, I definitely think it's getting more and more radicalized, for sure. So it's definitely still alive.
I think I'll preface and say that I don't know so much about modern Western feminism, and there might be a lot of terms that I don't know, like political jargon and stuff. But I believe in the advancement of women, whoever considers themselves a woman. I think there's a deficiency in society. So it's deeply rooted that feminism has always existed. I think America's a little obsessed with themselves, and it's like always feminism is rooted in America. And like, oh, white women started it. And it's kind of offensive because for thousands of years, women have been dying for their rights.
I think as a Black woman specifically, when you talk about feminism, the mainstream first thing you think about is a certain type of feminism that tends to exclude still, even today, even with intersectional feminism, exclude African-American women, and it's always kind of done that. And also like, upper middle class white women has predominantly been the face of what we quote unquote consider feminism.
I think feminism is attempting to say, okay, the first thing we agree on is that there are barriers and friction to what I need and what I want based on the fact that I'm a woman. What it ignores is that, and what
what are the barriers and frictions now, guy, in modern times? When you look at the American woman compared to women of other countries, there is no comparison. They have more freedoms and liberties than any other ethnic group of women or women in general. And sadly, what you're seeing now is a percentage of decent men being penalized because some don't want just power, they want to be superior. But guys, tell me what y'all think. Hold tight.
Privilege is that you may not have to think that being a woman and being a Black woman and being a Black woman who has a disability, for example, impacts you further. You have more barriers, you have more friction, you are less able to get what you want. You're undervalued in a way that's like, okay, well, you know, that's life. That's what I mean by equity, and that we're able to, without friction, all get the same needs met.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, see, I disagree with that. I think life is easier if you're a girl. Actually,
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of benefits that men don't have. I'm not going to speak anything to race. I'm just talking about gender specifically. It's usually like an excuse. Like, honestly, I think as a girl, you have equal opportunity in the world. I think there's benefits. Like, for example, we have quotas for women in specific jobs that are given to us that aren't given to men. So yeah, I would say it's easier being a girl.
Just from a viewpoint over here, though, it seems there's a lot of pretty privilege in what you're saying, and that you're white and you present.
Do you think I'm pretty? Thank you.
I think that you present in a way that beauty standards have accepted. And so
they call me ugly on the internet all the time. They be roasting me daily, I swear to God.
I don't mean to say I think you're gorge. I just mean that there is a certain value that we give to certain bodies.
I mean, let's also dig into why these quotas exist and why these, what you're calling
because
privileges
we want
exist.
special treatment.
No, it's because there have historically and presently in most jobs been fewer women and because of sexism.
How is it sexism when we have no barriers today? So we can pick what we want to pick.
It doesn't have barriers.
Women don't have barriers?
Women, yeah. What's
we
stopping
have no
you? You
barriers.
can do whatever you want.
I can or you can?
What's stopping you? As a woman.
She says she can and you can. And once again, it's never enough. You got a woman vice president. You got women Supreme Court judges. The system is very gynocentric. The system is not fair to men. The system is against men. But you still bitch and complain where women in other countries wish they had the freedoms and liberties that women in America have. Make it make sense, guys. And that's the cognitive dissonance that many have. Because they don't understand the freedoms that they have. They don't understand that the world that they benefit from was given to them by men. Men gave them the world that they benefit from.
As a woman.
As a woman.
As a woman.
See,
as a woman.
That ignores a lot that I'm a woman with a disability. So there's a lot stopping me that you don't have to think about.
Well, as I
You don't
said
have to
before,
think
I'm
about.
speaking about women. I'm not.
You're speaking
I'm not,
you're speaking for yourself.
You're speaking as
an able-bodied white woman.
I
That is
understand.
white.
Of course, there's going to be other barriers if you're disabled. I'm sure. Like I'm talking about as a woman.
So you're just going to ignore
white
the
women
pay
have it
gap.
easier. Yes, I would agree.
What?
You're just going to ignore the pay gap, regulation over bodies.
The pay gap has been disproven and debunked
The pay gap doesn't
endlessly,
exist.
my friend.
It doesn't. It's the industries that women pay.
She said regulation over their body, but they have regulation over our money. They have regulation over the voices of men. They have regulation over paternity fraud. They have regulation over guilty until proven innocent. Men are over-regulated in society. But it's always the victim narrative. It's always the victim narrative. Shout out to Top Gun for the $2 super sticker. She says she's not on code. Who heard her right? Yeah, she's not on code right. That's why a lot of them have a lot of vitriol for just pearly things. And Top Gun, thank you for that $2 super sticker. Thank you, brother. And also to the guys that are listening, share the content if you have not shared it and donate to the channel. Thank you.
Let's talk about it.
There's a pay gap, but it's because women don't want to do the hardest industries.
I don't think it's that simple. I think that's an oversimplification. I think the fact of the matter is that women structure their lives differently to men. Men don't give birth. Men don't have to carry pregnancies. Men don't have to be the primary caregiver most of the time. Women also don't hold jobs for as long as men do. They often will stop and start. They'll go back into work. They'll take time off. They'll take part-time jobs. The way that men work and women work are astronomically different. And to try to say that they're comparable is where this issue comes from. They're not comparable.
Two things. First of all, let's dig into why they think that they should take these jobs, which is societal sexism. And then also, Department of Labor, all statistics, at least speaking in the U.S., have found that when compared for the same jobs, there still is a pay gap, particularly when it pertains to race.
Because 60% of women have never asked for a raise. So how can you complain about your pay if you don't ask?
Why are they not?
What happens when women ask for a raise?
Sorry, I've been wanting to say something, but I want to be respectful. I don't want to interrupt people, and I want to let them finish their thoughts.
Jump in,
but
go through the wall.
It is a very privileged label, right, to be able to say that you're feminist, right? And I say that because I come from a working class background of Dominican immigrant parents. My mother would not necessarily identify as a feminist. I look to my mother, and I do think of her as a feminist. A lot of my ideas and my empowerment comes from seeing her survive and put food on the table. When I'm thinking about feminism, I'm always thinking about who's not part of the conversation. What are the barriers? How do we think about equity? How do we think about self-empowerment and agency and having a voice, right? And having choice and thinking about our basic human rights, education, access to health, homes, having bread, having food, and those things are very important, right? And they're at the crux, right, of what a lot of us here know that we need. It's there are the barriers, right, that we constantly ignore that are very much systemic and microaggressive, right? We see them and experience them every day.
Like what in the U.S.?
So,
like what?
What would you like to know an example of?
I know you said that there's barriers. I want to know what barriers in the U.S. today as a woman.
Well, as a woman or as a woman of color? Let's be specific.
As a woman. I said as a woman.
Well, no, I can't answer as a woman.
I just feel like your question is kind of hostile when you're like, there are no barriers to what I want. Congratulations. That means you have a privilege where you're not facing any friction, and that's showing, and I feel like it's
I think as an American, you're very privileged.
And guys, that's what many do. They see themselves as Black women first before they see themselves as part of the Black community. And that's a problem. If you want men to come together, to work together, to love, honor, and protect. Protection comes with a price. It's not given.
I'm ignoring that.
Yeah,
or
right.
a basic level of what, the feminist movement is when it comes to just being born a woman, right? Physically, pound for pound, we are born as women and we have less lean muscle mass than men. So there are issues of violence and assault and stuff like that. And so therefore, there are policies, there are things to help women physically, like, for example, I believe being able to carry a firearm and being able to use that safely to defend yourself against men who are born naturally with more muscle mass than a woman.
I keep hearing the term equity. What would a world that has equity look like? Like, would it be 50% of everyone in the same jobs? Would it be like prison, 50%? That's
equality.
50%. So what does equity look like?
So equity is generally described as a state of fairness, because historically a lot of people have been arguing for equality. But what does that give us? Like 0.5 of the 1% being women. This doesn't really do anything for us. And so people have talked about equity instead, which is...
And this guy... This guy is it's an affront to many women, because many women don't like men. They call themselves trans, and these people speak out on the concern. Some women are offended by that. The man that's speaking is definitely a trans.
Is instead of sameness, it's fairness. And this would mean that we remove systemic barriers to engage in society, not just for women, but also for everyone.
So which barriers?
Those barriers that you don't believe in.
I do. For you to have a bunch of ramps in your life, it doesn't do shit. I need those ramps, right?
Can we stick to male versus female? That's my question. So I'm thinking male versus female.
But feminism includes ability, it includes race.
My question is,
you guys can talk.
Women versus men. Like, what barriers do we need removed? Because that's my statement. I'm not stating anything else. I'm stating women versus men.
It's very silly.
So what barrier?
Why is it silly? It's a fair question.
So, yeah, but
it's not a fair question. It's
how is it not a fair question?
Kind of proving the point of what people, especially Black women, other people who are anybody who's not white, why we hear feminism and we don't want that label, because it means, I'm just gonna say, it means that. Like, it means that you've already gone into a pinnacle of whatever you think your happiness needs or whatever your survivalist needs are, when there are people on lower end who are trying to survive, who are trying to get to a point of what should be normal, based on what other people have.
It sort of sounds like you're saying feminism is not always inclusive then.
Right. It's most of the time it's not inclusive. It's more times than not, it's not. So, and within the just feminism space, again, there obviously the very basic is male versus female versus, but unfortunately, we've only had one subset of women be the face and voice and the academics and research and everything to be able to say, well, that's the standard we need to be in, when there are other people who are still trying to get to some type of normalcy and just living.
What is the biggest issue then that feminism faces?
I think it's the mindset. Women taking the agency, women taking initiative. I think it's mindset holding them back a lot, because if you want to be in a competitive world and compete, you have to have the right mindset. And I think a lot of people blame their lack of confidence or what society tells them for the reason that they're not achieving what they need to achieve, when that's not the case. You have to have the mindset of achieving, because the men who built the world had the mindset of building it. So the women who want to engage and build that further, they need to have that same mindset.
I don't think we do. I think that's like assuming that we all want to be capitalist babies.
Right.
I think that men are not well adjusted in the society, and women are not trying to re-embody what they have built for us. I think that what we're forgetting is a very important detail, which is just human respect and dignity.
Yeah,
and not asking people to prove what their experience is and to prove to you. It is such conservative thinking to say I don't understand, explain it to me, versus just saying I don't understand and let me respect what you are saying.
I'm respecting wherever your starting point. I'm respecting that. I'm really respecting that. I'm saying that if you don't have the mindset you can even achieve it, you're never going to even try. So it's never...
achieve what? What are we talking about? Because I feel like you projected this capitalist ideology on every woman.
Achieve whatever it is you're looking for, equality, equity. But what I'm saying is women in the feminist space and a lot of these other spaces, we don't acknowledge that we have to take the initiative. We have to take the action. We have to have the mindset. We have to demand those things.
I don't understand how we're getting so off topic. This is about feminism today, whereas everybody wants to make this about their individual, here are all the multitude of other things that factor into my person. Great. This is about feminism. It's about womanhood. I understand that all of you have your own individual experiences and the other things that feed into you as a person. That's perfectly fine. But this is where intersectionality falls off the planet and loses, I would argue, probably the vast majority of people, including me. I'm not even a feminist. I don't give a crap about feminists arguing amongst themselves about who's the most victimized. But this is annoying to listen to. I honestly I don't understand anything anybody's even trying to get at.
Look, I just want to say that I don't think equity and this concept of competition can't coexist with each other. Equity is building more facilities for people who need them. It is recognizing that there are holes in the market and there's opportunities for women and feminine expansive people and meeting those opportunities. I think equity can buoy the pre-existing system that we live in a good way.
And this is where we're going to get to what I think the real feminist arguments are based off of policy. And abortion is the biggest one.
How many of you would identify as pro-choice? Let's do a show of hands for pro-choice.
I feel like pro-choice is pro-life, though.
Yeah.
Okay, and folks who identify as pro-life? Why do you identify as each?
You've gone from legal, safe, rare to, yeah, I'm so proud, let me beatbox in front of the Planned Parenthood, yeah, I got murder on my mind. The fact that it's celebrated that murdering children, especially in late-term pregnancies, is celebrated, that people are so proud of themselves for mutilating a fetus is just, it blows my mind. And I don't think that you need to be pro-life to even take that stand.
You said late-term pregnancy.
Yes.
A lot of abortions do not happen.
I made
in
the distinction. I made the distinction specifically because lots of people still celebrate. There are people who, when the laws were passed actually here in New York, they said, yes, great, yes, I love the fact that...
But you need to ask about what are people celebrating, right? They're celebrating access. We're not celebrating killing kids. Like, that's not what it is.
Well, so this is what I'm saying.
So, here's the thing. When we're talking about access...
But here's the crazy thing. They're celebrating access, but they're not giving men equal access to make decisions when they tell that woman, I don't want that child, or I want to keep my child. But yet we get mad at men for checking out and men deciding to travel abroad. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. I'm going to drop the link in a few minutes, guys. I want you guys to talk for a few more minutes before I end the stream. Hold tight.
Access to reproductive health and to abortion rights, right, into being pro-choice. Listen, that's your body, you do you.
The child is not your body.
As I go.
A baby.
It's so scary for me to hear people calling like guns the biggest equalizer for women, but taking their choices away from them at a policy level.
Why is that?
Having a gun is an equalizer.
It is.
Having rights is an equalizer.
Yeah, that's
Having
right.
choice is
Right.
an equalizer.
Just like a gun right.
And in this country,
41 forms
the
of birth
policies
control.
that are pushed
41.
to continue perpetuating patriarchy and anti-women, like taking the autonomy away from women, it is heartbreaking to see women pushing that propaganda. It's all brainwash. Like you.
Oh, it's brainwash because you don't agree with me.
No,
so
because
therefore
I've
I'm
been brainwashed.
brainwashed.
I have lived deeply institutionalized.
Man,
I have lived under Islam. I'm not interested in any of that. Like, there's no like
You're not
guilt
interested
for
in
me.
human
No, I'm not interested in like
living,
thinking that like women are doing this really bad thing. Like in my religion, abortion is actually allowed. If the woman needs it, she's allowed, because you know it's very interesting how like fundamental America is. Like fundamentalist.
This is nothing to do with
like
even religion. This is very
conservative
basic
thinking.
scientific human rights.
We're also talking about people not having access to abortion clinics where they're doing the things themselves and they die, right? We're also talking about women in the hospital who are pregnant, who have chosen to stay with their pregnancy and have issues at hospitals, and hospitals that are like, oh, no, we don't do that. Listen, for whatever reason, you don't need to explain it to anybody, but a lot of times when we're talking about access to reproductive health, for me, I'm thinking about Black, Indigenous, people of color, particularly women and girls who are working class, who do not have even access to like proper sexual education. It's the oppressive state of saying, I will force you to have a child even against your own will, right? Especially when you're thinking about women and girls who would be forced to have these children, who are already living in very traumatized and scarce situations. You want to ask about barriers? That's a barrier right there.
Women in poverty aren't able to access the way that rich women are, and no matter what happens, rich women are gonna keep getting abortions, and people in poverty are gonna not. And the choice, opening it up, the overruling, is marginally affecting people of color, people in poverty, way more than people who are going to get access to those abortions.
Actually,
anyway.
incorrect. You're the misquote. There's actually more abortions for people in poverty. It's just at a lower.
Shout out to my man Top Gun. He said that at the Kosher Clinician, do you understand why I'm not blanking with the Dominican Republic? I can tell without even seeing who she is when she speaks. I appreciate it, man. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it, Top Gun. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Right.
Why do you think that abortion has been so tied up in this feminism conversation?
It's all just social structure set up around bodies. So if not all women are able to have babies, but it's about the barriers and value that we give to these specific bodies, right? And so if abortion happens in a woman's body, that's why this conversation is coming up.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
You said that not all women are able to have babies or pregnancies. Are you saying, meaning like an infertility issue?
A number of reasons. There's all kinds of reasons that not all women are having babies.
Pearl, I saw your hand up. Yeah.
I think women want to sleep around and not have any consequence for it.
Hell yeah, we do.
Yeah!
Yeah, instead of, taking personal accountability and being on birth control, they just want to like do whatever they want.
You say this like it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
It almost sounds like you said.
Can I also ask, do you have any care to empower women, or is disempowering women part of your steez?
To see this as shame, insult, guilt, need to be right. Okay. Why is it empowering to sleep around?
No,
Why is
what
that
I'm
empowering?
saying is I feel like you do take the way you speak on women is very sort of women just don't want to do this. Women just don't have this. Women just want to this.
Maybe I should
and I
change my
wonder
term.
why
Maybe I
you
should
have
say-
so much hatred towards women.
I don't hate
Where
women.
does that root in? It
I
sounds
don't hate
like
women.
you do.
I am a woman. I
doesn't mean you don't have
I could be
self-hate.
black and still be internalized racism.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I'm saying specific things that you're saying,
And always victimhood. Anytime you go counter to code, then it's a problem.
women don't want to work, women don't want to this, women want to sleep around. Where did you learn these belief systems from?
Because, the question was, why does abortion keep getting brought up? 40% of women that have had abortions have had 2 or more. 40%.
Good for
so
them.
what does that say to me? That means you're using it as a form of birth control, and they don't track the 60%.
What kind of abortions?
Can you let me finish? They don't track the 60% to say who in the future has abortions. So to me, it's like.
She's speaking common sense. As obviously listen to men, the male talking points, and she's more or less regurgitating it. But Pearl is, she's keeping it 100. But once again, guys, you can't teach or preach rationality to the irrational in this world that we live in.
Why are they dying so hard for abortion? They want to sleep around with no consequences, even though you have 41 forms of birth control.
Who does that benefit? I don't think that benefits women. I think actually that benefits men, because it means that men can have sex with you without consequence. It means that you can sleep with whoever you feel like. Great, but there are consequences because women are the ones who get pregnant and carry babies and give birth.
It's very binary version of sex.
Yes, because sex is binary.
Listen, the way you solve that is don't sleep around, or only sleep around if you're going to be married or in a committed relationship. The problem with modernism and modern women, they want the benefits to do what they want to do without the consequences. There's consequences for that. And with 33% of men being virgins, how are men benefiting? Only a percentage of men benefit, but men by and large, they don't benefit. They don't benefit at all, man.
But please let me finish my point.
Oh, God.
It's tricking women into thinking that aborting a pregnancy, terminating a pregnancy is something to be celebrated, when in reality, for a lot of women, especially those who are doing it under duress, say that they've been raped, or that, in the small circumstances where something really traumatic has happened to them, that's a medical decision. Or say that they're miscarrying and then they have to, have an assisted termination. That's a medical procedure. It's not a celebration of, oh, look at the.
The idea, the sort of moral setting of that it needs to be rare is, I think the delineation between that's a medical abortion and that's a fun abortion is really interesting, because they're all medical. It's all a medical procedure. And so no matter what you're doing, going in there and getting it, it's not oh, you're only allowed 2. It's just you should just be able to get a medical procedure done when it's something that you need done.
We shouldn't be desensitized to taking someone's life. That should never be an empowering factor for a woman.
I definitely agree in that, there should be no absolute thing any woman should do. there should not be an absolute response to incest or rape or any of these things. Every woman should have the choice of if they want to or not want to carry that child, whether it is having fun, getting raped, incest, whatever it is. I don't glorify and glamorize abortion. I think it's a very traumatic thing. I doubt that if somebody has to do, like if they have to do it, they'll do it. I don't think that people are like, doing like have 6, get the 7th free and having fun with it. And I think that like glamorization and glorification of any side is not okay.
Did the Dobbs decision make anybody here sort of rethink abortion access, reproductive health care?
It's anti-woman, right? It does not center people to have that voice for themselves and their own decisions, right? It is a barrier, right?
It's
If we
giving
wanna put it
more.
that
It's
way.
giving more agency to women because it's moving it back to the state level. So locally,
But why would the state have
locally,
the
the
ability
women
to tell me what to do?
Because it
Locally,
does
the
in
women
multitudes
have
of
that
different
power.
areas. If you take out the viewpoint that life begins at conception, which is a really big defining principle for both the pro-life crowd, who very, very vehemently believe that, and then obviously a lot of the pro-choice crowd do not believe that. Taking that out of the equation, you do not have just whatever kind of autonomy you want as a person. It's regardless of male or female. You can't just have free run to do whatever the hell you want. That's not how society operates. So
At no point do I have the right to tell anyone in this room what they should or should not do with their bodies.
But it's not about your body. It's not about
me respecting a question here.
It's not about your body. It's about the kid's body. I don't care what you do with your body.
It's my body, right? We're talking about my body.
You're talking about.
Jordan, I saw your hand creep up.
The Dobbs decision for me reinforced how important it is that we approach these issues from a cultural perspective, because it reinforces something that I have told many of my colleagues and peers in the past, which is that so long as you lack a cultural consensus.
And guys, that's the solipsism. That is the solipsism. They can't see anything outside of themselves, and they wonder why the coldest winter ever in 2023 and beyond could be besetting many, because they cannot see anything outside of themselves. It's me, myself, and I. And that's a problem, to say the least.
Any issue can become a political football that can be decided by another election cycle. And so long as there is no strong consensus, I would expect this to be our reality going forward, these extremely vitriolic and aggressive conversations until there's another miraculous consensus that brought about Roe v. Wade. But what it more or less reinforced for me is that we're going to have more of these difficult conversations.
I want to talk about transgender issues. Should trans women be included in feminist conversations? How about in women's spaces?
Yes, they're women. What's the question?
Pearl,
Trans women are women.
So I want to come at this from the position of an athlete.
Oh, Jesus.
So I play semi.
The delusion, guys, is unreal. And this is what you guys are dealing with. It's a very pervasive ideology. An ideology that deludes people of having not only common sense, but reality. And that's why I told you guys, when you present them with the evidence, they have what's called a cognitive break, or they have what's called a schema affliction. And if you're a traditional man, yeah, right. Right machine at Top Gun. If you are a traditional man that believe in traditional values, you would be a damn fool to waste your time dealing with the typical modern woman that's been liberally indoctrinated. But that goes back to what the Bible said. Professors sent themselves to become wise, they will become fools. That's what the gospel said. And this is the world that we're living in now, sadly.
Pro basketball, semi-pro volleyball. So when it comes to like athletic spaces, I don't think that trans women should be allowed into athletic spaces, because I don't think it's a fair, I think as female athletes, we work so incredibly hard for the little opportunity there is in women's sports.
Would this be a barrier for you?
There's no barrier. There's less opportunity in some industries.
That's what a barrier is.
There's less, it's not, no. It's based on the market.
Means.
Okay.
Hold on, guys.
Okay. So again, we work very hard for the little opportunity there is in the space, because we're not as entertaining as the men. Sorry, we're just not. And so it's like you're gonna take the little opportunity that we're given. And the problem is, like, we can't compete. We can't. Like, I'm 6 foot. If I go up against a 6 foot guy and I play basketball with him, he's gonna body me.
And what happens if I go up against you?
Even if I have years more of training. And so it's like you're taking away the little opportunity that we're given and we all work so hard for, and you're just giving it back to biological guys. It's like, this will be the end of women's sports.
Have you tried confidence?
Eli, hold on, Minnie.
Sorry,
Eli.
confidence can't make me bench what a guy benches.
I don't
confidence can't
understand
make
why
me
you guys
6'7".
are so hostile. She's sharing her
And confidence
experience
can't make
in
me
a
6'7".
specific
No, she's
field.
sharing
And
trans
I'd have to
misogyny.
go.
No, she's not. She's a woman who's had an experience.
Hold on, one at a time.
You guys
We
are
let
so
Pearl
obsessed with
finish.
your own experiences and your own existence, and yet when a woman is sitting here telling you, I feel as though this is unfair and this is compromising and this situation is not helping women, you guys are like, meh, meh, meh. But when you're like, I'm a black person that did this, 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 and this, then it's valid and fair and viable.
Eli, I want to give you the chance to respond.
So this is basically a joke of a talking point. Everyone has biological advantages in sports. How tall are you?
5'11" and a half. I'm tall.
I'm 5'8". I am a trans woman. You would crush me. You would absolutely crush
bone
me.
density, wrist strength, muscle density. You can't switch those.
Yeah, exactly. You would crush me.
But also, Eli, you would never play at the level that Pearl plays because you would never get there.
So let me give you a few more examples here, too. So Michael Phelps produced more lactic acid in his body, which caused him to swim better than any of his competitors. This was widely celebrated, and nobody contested it. Now, this is a performance-enhancing hormone. So we all have different bodies.
Guys, the link has been dropped. You want to come up and talk about this malady. But not only if you guys feel that 2023 and beyond will continue to be some of the coldest winters ever, feel free to add in before I end the stream.
And now I'm not saying that trans women who aren't on hormones should participate, but there are, every major medical and every major sports organization agrees that trans women who have been on hormones for between 1 and 3 years, depending on the organization, have the same competitive abilities.
The study that you're referencing had like 7 people participated.
That's misinformation, by the way. I'm referencing several different studies. I'm a trans woman and a researcher.
It's getting personal. I don't want it to be
a lot
personal.
of us live in this space where we're told that our opinions don't count because they're not the right kind of opinions, and we're constantly shouted over and talked over, regardless of what we look like, because there's one group in society that basically takes precedence, and it's frustrating. So yeah, of course, it's frustrating because when we try to talk about it, we get shouted down, we get told to be quiet, we get spoken down to as well. So there's hostility there for plenty of women.
Let's try to make this an opportunity to speak.
You're
with
literally a
each
white
other
woman
then.
from Australia. You live in a bubble and you're pissed that voices that have been silenced forever finally can be heard.
That's why they have the voice, because they speak up.
Okay, we're having a conversation about transgender women participating in sports, and I wanted to allow more people to participate. Jordan, I wanted to hear from you.
So I am not a professional athlete. The closest thing I have ever done to anything athletic was I used to do competitive show choir when I was younger. And I don't feel really qualified to make carte blanche statements about whether or not trans women should compete in every kind of sport. And I understand that that is that's a hard pill to swallow. And for me, my first inclination is to approach everything through a lens of inclusivity. But at the same time, I also can't speak accurately to every kind of sport and the different things that go into it. So I really think in these instances, the decisions are best left up to the professional governing bodies that dictate these particular sports.
I just feel like in places, as an ally, in places where there's no understanding, we can just respect and not really, like, our opinions don't fucking matter.
Eli, I saw you nodding your head over there.
Several times. This is more than about sports. This is about free and equal participation for transgender people in social life. And the right sees this as a socially acceptable way to begin to remove trans people from different engagements in our society. So it does just start with sports or bathrooms or locker.
All right, guys, if you want to pop in for a minute, feel free to. I'm going to continue to play this story. I'm going to end this stream in a minute. But if you guys want to end, talk about if you feel that 2023 and beyond will be the coldest winter ever, Feel free to pop in as I continue to play the remainder of this clip. And you guys are listening to the foolishness that we're dealing with here in modern America.
Something that they find is more acceptable. And then at this point, they started to move into education, getting trans teachers fired, banning trans books. This is a route that is very effective because it's seen as more acceptable. But it's also overlooking a lot of major details. Like, I mean, do y'all know how many trans women have won national titles?
One too many.
One. Leah Thomas is the only one.
One too many.
If
one too many?
if women's sports were actually going to end in some way, I mean, it's just not happening. Wouldn't you think there would be more trans women in sports when the majority of states do allow trans women full participation? International titles, 0. No global titles have ever been won by a trans woman.
I want to move on to a different topic. I want to talk about Me Too and sort of this social movement that we're living through right now. What is the state of feminism sort of in this post-Me Too era?
We're in post-Me Too?
All right.
Tell me.
Sorry, I got distracted by the Me Too part. So I was like, we're in post-Me Too? Wow, like, no one's getting, like, sexually harassed anymore. Like, we did it, guys. We solved the problem. We want that world. No, I think, obviously, the state of feminism is very much reflected right in this room. But Me Too, for me, right, in a particular context, means something for different people. It's a different experience for different people. In my culture and in my community, we're still working through that. There is no post-Me Too, right? We're still working through how do we have these tough conversations? How do we teach not just, women, but everyone about consent? What does consent look like? What does that look like in our community? What does that not look like, right? All those things that I think it's still very complicated. But I think it starts at the level of community, right? Of like, how do we have these conversations around consent?
Sydney, I saw your hand up.
So when the Me Too thing was unfolding, I was initially like, great, I love the idea of women being able to speak out. What's been really disappointing, I suppose, for me, post-Me Too, as we're calling it, is that, and especially as someone who's sort of on the right wing of politics, I think that a lot of the experiences of women on the right get a bit trivialized because there is a lot of politicizing of sexual assault. So when something legitimately happens on our side of the table and someone tries to speak up about it, there's almost an automatic disbelief. And I understand why. It's because of the believe all women type of stuff that came out of the Me Too movement, that a lot of us were like, wait a minute, no, people do use these situations for gain. People do make things up. People do lie. But it is sad to watch it happen. It makes me sad that we're here.
Jordan?
I feel like there'll never be a post-Me Too because at the heart of it, Me Too is just a phrase. The spirit of what Me Too represented will always be relevant, and that is that you are empowering individual women to advocate for themselves and speak out when they feel like they're being wrong. Ideally, you're just trying to be the most transparent and self-accountable person.
But where is the caveat to that when you allow men to speak out about their misgivings? Where these same agitators for equality, where men are unjustly being accosted or unjustly being penalized. You cannot build a movement off the same oppression that you cry about. I'm going to say it again. You cannot build a movement off of the same oppression that you cry about. And because some of these women lack self-awareness, they have been indoctrinated by liberal policies, 2023 and beyond will be some of the coldest winters ever. And it's going to be appalling to some of them when they are sitting outside or when it's cold outside. That's why I tell you, men, as I said earlier, if you are a traditional man, you need to focus on yourself. Focus on yourself if you are traditional, you believe in traditional values, traditional relationships, and Judeo-Christian principles. You have to focus on yourself. Instant recovery, hold tight, brother. I'm going to let you, we're going to chop it up in a minute. Hold tight. Thank you. Give me 1 minute.
You can be, and you need to hit all of those fronts if you want it to last on a cultural level.
How about beauty standards? We talked a little bit about this got brought up at the beginning. How does that tie into femininity?
Sorry, I'm very into this idea because I do think it is one of the larger intersections that just doesn't get very discussed, which is, like I was talking about before, barriers and friction are placed up around bodies. And the fatter I get, the older I get, the less people will listen to me, the less value I will have for society. So, you know, I'm already starting out as a woman with no legs. If I had something on my face, I have my beauty. That's one of my privileges. I have my whiteness. That's one of my privileges. I used to have thinness, and now I'm getting fatter. Things are changing. And I think every single time that we talk about feminism, pretty privilege should be discussed, because we have these ideas. If your skin tone is this, if your hair is this, if your body looks like that, it's about whether or not you are given an equal opportunity based on what you look like.
I think a lot of times the women that complain about beauty standards don't complain about them when they got privilege, when they were young and attractive and thin. So it's like, yeah, you're complaining when the privilege is gone, but privilege is invisible to those who have it. And women, it's a privilege, and men don't turn 18 and get looks that we get.
As a Black woman, one of the most integral parts of the beauty conversation has been colorism. I'm a dark-skinned Black woman, proud of it and proud of being myself. For the most part, I did not.
Mr. Recovery, what do you think about all this? All of this, I don't know, how can I say it? Malarkey, victimization. What would you say about all this foolishness, man? Unmute yourself, MC.
Well, it's a lot. It's because, you know, I've been wanting to put some reaction videos up, but it's like, wow. It seems like every time I get ready to put something up, it'd be too much stuff coming out.
Right.
But it is a lot of malarkey. It's a lot of it's like the women nature. I seen on the Little Peep show yesterday, Ricky brought up something. It's like they don't want to change. A few of them can change their nature. They can see a glimpse of the truth, but mainly what I'm seeing is that they all want like partnership, or it's all like they want to just do what they want to do. Right. Without looking at the reality of the consequences, because another thing that a man like me wouldn't want is a female that has one of those vaginas that being like, you know, it's more like you digging into somebody that's numb. A cemetery, really. And then and then what cracks me up, these women honestly believe that we can't see that. Right. See, we all have this so-called wokeness in us, right. We all got this third eye, and they don't believe that men have a third eye. They only think that they're woke and we're asleep. They want us to stay asleep.
They do, unfortunately, man. And I think men now are beginning to wake up, because they're beginning to see what their worth is, how much power they have, and they don't have to more or less limit themselves to some of the BS that some of these women are saying. And it's always under the umbrella of victimization, sadly. Hold tight.
Right. So it's like it's a long winter.
Oh, yeah.
I did not grow up thinking I was beautiful because I was that. And I think in the Black space, we have these conversations, but I think I'm glad you're bringing it up, because I think feminists actually really should be part of the colorism topic, because colorism is not just shades within being Black. It's shades because the beauty standard is the closer to whiteness you are, the more beautiful you are. I think it's something that if more people in different shades, particularly white women, because of knowing that standard, and we work together on that, then we have a lot, I think, something we can unify on, but also something that we can make strides in right now that I'm just not seeing. And it's only, that's why people feel like you have to be a Black feminist, because it's a topic that only really Black feminists are talking about, because it deals with being Black.
How do beauty standards make you feel, Morris?
I mean, kind of what you're saying, Antonia, as a Black Latina woman in my community, right? Like, I grew up and I was ugly, right? Like, that's what I was considered. I was not considered beautiful. Of feeling ugly, but also being told I was, right, had a lot to do with what is believed in my community, right? Colorism is one of them. And so to say, I'm gonna redefine beauty for myself, and to say, I own myself, and I get to decide what's beautiful, right? And I get to decide what I wanna wear and how I wanna wear it. And I don't need to, right? It's almost a repelling, right? Like, I'm like, no, you know what? I am beautiful. I'm gonna do what I wanna do, and I'm gonna feel.
What do things look like MC Recover up in Cali, man? Do you see a lot of this behavior up in Cali?
Oh, man.
And if so, talk about it.
We is immersed in it. Even with that Latino lady speaking, what I'm doing is I'm giving certain people fair warnings because we have all these closed door meetings on policies and stuff to be pushed out on homelessness, on cultural art. So some of the dynamic people, I'm letting them know about, another branch that's not a part of the Black Lives Movement, but it's that Latinx. See, the way she was speaking like, she's gonna make her own standard of her own beauty. But on all this goofiness that's going on now, what's making our Black women feel real hurt because they can't. Some of them can't go to the other race. Is because if we have a problem picking you, what make you think that Brad and Enrique and all them people is going to be in a rush to pick you? A lot of them will pump and dump though.
Oh yeah, many will pump and dump.
A lot of them will pump and dump, if you got the looks or even if you don't have the look.
Right.
But it's a sad state because I see it in my family members.
Talk about it. What do you see in your family? Be more specific.
Well, my family members, I got a sister. Well, her ex-husband then passed away. Me and my brother told her to go back to the marriage because she always said one side of the story. She always say he be arguing and he be getting drunk and this, that, but she don't say the other side of the story. She's her hanging out with her girlfriends, being married. See? So by her doing that gave him a window to cheat because you hanging out with these cool ass homegirls, got them coming by the house when you ain't there because y'all always party.
Right.
So what I'm seeing out here, we still have some women like it's almost like you gotta say hello to them at the grocery store, get their notice. But you can feel that some of them have a hard time trying to readjust to that you is their counterpart. You could say hello back. Everybody, and then I think it's a psychological problem because they get so much attention as growing up. Some of these women, they think everybody wants to talk to them.
Right.
And then that's basically what I'm seeing. Or it's like some of them in a rush to let you know that they married. Once we hear that, we ain't trying to talk to you. Sometimes we just being polite.
Right. What does the coldest winter ever mean to you? The coldest winter, you're not group at a time where it appears that women have more self-awareness, but the lack of self-awareness will lead many to endure the coldest winter. Studies are already saying that a large percentage of women will be single and childless by 2033 or 2035. But what does that mean to you?
Well, so far, I can see it in LA and from some of my friends, especially some of them. What's making it real cold now is every time I go to the store or somewhere, the prices of everything is going up. Eggs is like $9.99, $7.99, $6.99. So you can hear these women talking, and now it's like a lot of them got that look on their face like everybody bank account is changing. See, this feminist movement, what it really did is I remember Kevin Samuel say, the United States make a lot of money because these are single baby mama homes and stuff, and these single women, they spend a lot of money. Mm-hmm. They spend a lot of money. They got to call for a plumber, somebody to change the tire. But if they had a man, somebody to cut the lawn, see if they had a man, that's all covered.
Right.
I will take the car. I will cut the lawn. I will trim the hedges. I will shove the snow. Get it? And then you build with me so I can teach our son to do the same thing. Mm-hmm. And then then you re-energize me by having me come home to a peaceful home.
Yes, sir. Right. Right. Have you checked out, and so how and why? Have you checked out?
Well, I checked out. I just haven't got my passport. And then one part of me is like, I'm checked out and I'm checked in. Now, my son's mother, she can see the reality more better now.
Right.
But it's like the way I'm looking at the reality age-wise, with me 58, now all these women that I wanted action from, I can get a date from. These are women from 20 years ago, 15 years ago.
Right.
Thought that I was asleep 20 years ago.
Right.
See, I was in the same condition that the manosphere is in now, but it was like we couldn't voice this out publicly, because if we did, we'll get that man bashing, you this, you that type of stuff. So that's what I'm seeing out here, is that a lot of women is getting ready for a cold winter, because when you go to the store, I don't know where you stay at, but a lot of our shelves is empty, running out of products. So it's getting ready to come again.
Right.
They got signs in the store at Food for Less, buy one, you only allowed to buy one pack of eggs, one pack of toilet paper.
Right.
And then it's bad. And I work for the mental health system. See, that's what attracted me to your show, because I know you telling the truth. Mm-hmm. Because if I'm getting pushed back, if I'm getting shut down in meetings on Zoom, just as much as I was getting shut down in meetings live, shit. So it's more like we really have to come together. That's one reason why I want to do a reaction channel to stay on the topic of being a helpmate.
Right.
Instead of a burden, because what this is doing, it is leaving our community in a state of burning up in front of our eyes.
There is no community. You cannot have a community when you don't honor and respect your men. There is no community, and that's fine. It's okay. I just tell men to focus on themselves, man. Focus on themselves, love themselves, do what's best with them. Hold tight. Finish playing this real quick, and I'm going to end the stream. Hold tight.
Feel myself, because if no one else is going to feel me, it's on me to feel me too.
I gotta say though, I did grow up being referred to as very beautiful for a woman with a disability. And that to me always fed this idea that disability doesn't mean beautiful. I am in some form of exceptionalism, which I then had to keep up with forever. So it's like, I got this thought as I started to age, like, you can have no legs, but you better not fucking get fat. And so this idea that like, there are certain people who are beautiful and certain people who aren't, and that inherently holds value is, I think, find it in yourself, yes. And
Jordan? Beauty standards are toxic bullshit hierarchical nonsense. And I say that as someone who has spent over a year collectively of my life in eating disorder institutions, because I have tried to put my body through hellish things to meet these beauty standards, which more often than not are not based.
But beauty standards are BS, but height standards, penis standards, and money standards is not BS. it's always a perpetual cycle of victimhood. They can never see outside of themselves. They call it solipsism. And that's why I tell you, man, just check out, man, focus on yourselves, man. Don't even argue. Don't get mad. Just focus on you. You will be a lot healthier and better and sane when you love to focus on you and learn to love yourself.
In reality, they're typically trends. They're created to push things. They're extremely useful for marketing, but they don't serve anyone's health. They don't serve anyone's self-esteem. They only act to try and tell us that there's a allegedly right way to have a body. And if you don't occupy that space and have that body, then you're a piece of shit, which is absolute nonsense. And there are way too many women and men in the world who end up doing terrible things to themselves because they fall into this trap of thinking that you have to be this way. And if you aren't this way, then there's something inherently wrong at your core, which is nonsense. You're perfect the way you are. That's literally the core of it. You are perfect the way you are. And anyone who tries to tell you otherwise is feeding into this industry and is just, they're not your friend or looking out for you.
Layla?
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, yeah, beauty in the industry is exploitative, but also we have to remember a lot of the beauty standards are based around health, what's perceived as health, like symmetry, certain weights, things like that. So there is that side where we have to balance it, and I think we're seeing so much more representation.
Don't know what happened. Hold tight.
She was talking about the science of beauty.
Okay, hold tight. Let me put something down. Hold on. Give me 1 minute, MC. Recover. Yeah, give me a minute. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, man.
I don't know what happened, man.
Yep. On that screen there. Like if my eyes was closed and I had more bass, I would swear up and down I'm listening to a lot of men.
Right.
But it does show what you normally say. This is a sign when you have a community that lacks having men and stuff. Because out here in LA, a lot of my friends I grew up with,
right,
they is like PE coaches, park recreational coaches, and then all the other ones, they have
sexism when we have no barriers today.
Any money when they do gang intervention. So
right.
But they get less of the money. Like if any of them women on this panel had a nonprofit, they'll get more money.
Oh yeah.
So and then it would be geared to them. See, their nonprofits will have earmarked money to send women to college.
Top Gun funny as hell, being messy. Shout out to man Top Gun. Top Gun say you are aboard, Dave. Man, that dude, wow, man. That dude, wow. Top Gun get me in trouble.
More representation, which I think is incredibly important.
Well, I just think that if women really cared about beauty standards, like the obesity rate wouldn't be what it is.
But what
Let's
about
try
you?
to attain the beauty standards. I just think some people are more attractive, some people are less attractive, and that's just, where would I rate myself 1 to 10?
No, we're not rating. It's okay.
That's what I mean. I just think some people are more attractive.
So if you are overweight, you don't care about beauty standards.
Well,
is that right?
It's like the overweight one is the part that gets me too, because some Egram finally said what I wanted to hear somebody say that I have never heard somebody say in the manosphere.
Right. Hold on a minute, MC Recovery. Hold on, my man Jay Perry showing love for the 20. Jay Perry said that transformer got on my last nerves, and that's a deal, right?
That's a deal, right?
I appreciate it, Jay Perry. Appreciate it for the 20
right? That's a
man.
deal, right? That's a deal,
that transformer got on my nerves.
Right? Got 5, right?
And it's unnerving to a lot of men, where the evidence is counterintuitive to what many are projecting and saying, and it's unfortunate to say the least.
The point is that the beauty standard is thin, right?
Your standard?
Obesity comes from men and women, though.
Yeah, you're right. That's true. But I'm saying if women really wanted to fit the beauty standard, they would be thin.
I know. I just, from my experience as well, is growing up again in a mostly white neighborhood but I was always comparing myself to literally other people who have a different body type, but
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, man. This is the second time this happened, man. I don't know what's going on. Did you pop off?
Yeah, something happened. I don't know.
Yeah. This is the second time it happened, man.
Yeah.
All right. So maybe the machine don't want us to talk. So I'm just gonna leave it alone. I'll leave it alone for now, man. But
I like what he said. If you can't have a woman that you can save, because I used to tell my son, mother, come on now, watch it with that weight, because I don't want to be at a place where we're walking across a bridge or if we looking over a balcony or something to where I can't just grab her and bring her back.
Right.
Sure, I want somebody I can carry right over the threshold, right into the bedroom. Like if we get married, and this is what the women can't see this state. How is I going to protect somebody? Because we're in Los Angeles. This is earthquake country. Mm-hmm. Now, what if the ground crack open? I'm going to think logical. I ain't going to reach for you so I can go down there.
Right.
So it's like, shit is going to hurt, but I'm not going to reach for you knowing that your weight going to pull me down there. So,
Yeah. And you know, I think Top Gun is right, and also Big G. These kind of topics, you got to be careful. I got to be careful how I do these shows moving forward, man. Being a professional therapist, man. I just like for men to be able to have their points of views and speak. But you guys saw the stream go down twice. The computer I got is a brand new computer, so it can't be the computer.
Yeah, but I need to use my new one.
Right. It can't be the computer because the computer's brand new. It's a brand new computer. The computer's literally over $3,000, man. And so, 2 times the strings pop. The string pops twice. It goes down.
And it's a lot of there's some raining happening out here now.
Yeah. You popped off for some reason. I don't know. Maybe I don't know, but I'm not tripping on it. I'm not going to trip on it. But where do you see us going from moving forward, man? I'm about to sign off. I'm about to get ready to go to work. But moving forward, man. Where do you see this country going, man, with the kind of behaviors that you see now?
Well, that's what I was explaining to my son the other day. Well, I just hope that they do something, BG, because the other countries is watching America, and then we don't need to be caught off guard. Mm-hmm. Not especially when it comes to the school. If we're weak at the schools level, and then we trying to indoctrinate them into all of this woke Catholicism and stuff. This really makes us look weak. We have all the technology in the world, but if we got our young boys checking out because it seems like we in a society that don't care, who wants to stand up for something like that?
Right. Yeah, all the other countries are changing, and we'll continue to go in the same negative situation that we're in, man. And that's why 2023 and beyond could be some of the coldest winters ever, because the winter is a euphemism of death, the death of masculinity, the death of femininity, the death of rationality, the death of family, the death of tradition, the death of awareness, the death of a lot of things that were once that kept us in the spirit of spring and summer will sadly be deaf, because this is what happens when these kids go to these liberal schools now. They don't know how to think outside of the liberal indoctrination. It's one thing to go to school and you can think outside the liberal indoctrination, but many times they can't think. And and they're trying to force you to think that what they're saying is normal and true. And that's a problem.
Now my son, he got kicked out of the public school for a minute, and he had another school, and within 4 weeks, he got nothing but A's and B's. He got a B in geometry, A in chemistry and stuff, and they can't have cell phones at the school. It's a continuation school, but he got the option to go back, and he has ADHD. So I have him on 10 milligrams. He still does some of the journaling when I tell him to do some journaling, and he's in an internship program with to be a camp counselor right at the park.
Right.
So for this winter break, he made $360 by going to hip hop camp. So to keep him involved, and then what I like as a father is that I taught him how to use the screwdriver, taught him how to fix his kickstand, his tire on his bike. So he's starting to get used. So I need to put some more tools in his hands. And hopefully I can get me one of these old cars one of these days and show him how to do an oil change and some of the basics. Of what I know how to do, like change a tire. This is how you do an oil change. And then, because he needs to know this stuff, and it will save him some money.
Yeah, I agree. It was saving some money, man.
But as far as you said, where our society is going, well, I see on the right. Now, this is like a political. I see that the right is starting to look pretty good to me, because they don't want a lot of these things right in the school. This is what I'm just seeing, because right out here, they're for it. Boy, if I had a video camera and show you what I seen.
Talk about that a little bit. What do you mean?
Well, we out here where North Hollywood is, right? So if you go to West LA, man, they got all of Sodom and Gomorrah. Just put it that way. You'll see it live. You see well, it looks like a regular community with pole dancing, men dancing on poles, because I was dropping off this guy that does security, and he said this is his last time working out here. He don't care about the money, dude, because he said it goes against his faith. So it's like, yeah, they're giving him a lot of money to work at these clubs, but his faith is like, his eyes can't take it. So he got to protect that side. So he rather like give me some other jobs elsewhere. Yeah, so it's like they'll pay the money if you come and watch over them at their clubs. But but the way things is really looking politically, like in most of the meetings, you really have to strategize to even get some money to come in your community.
Right.
Because most of our programs is for single baby mothers, and I've been pushing for programs for single fathers to get the same treatment. So now it's an uproar of everybody trying to open up some kind of gateway or doors to start male programs out here, but it's not going as fast as you would want it to go. See, because they want to make a pocket to where people can see how much money they can get out of. So, and then as far as we have our Measure J money from that George Floyd thing that's then on the neck, that meeting been put on hold. The court stopped that meeting right before the money was about to be issued. So that's what the Measure J money is looking like. And And most of all, some people notice when it comes to money that's regulated for low-income community, it's never one of our complexion dealing with them at the top.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't that something?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, that is something, man. I hope you're training your son, man, how to circumnavigate through this foolishness, man, because it is a lot of foolishness, man. You know, it's a lot of foolishness, man. But I'm about to sign off, man. I got to get out of here, man. I got to go to some people, man. But it was a good stream. Thank you for tuning in, always showing love, man. I appreciate it. I got another good one coming up at some point. But thank you to the brothers and sisters that tuned in, to all the brothers that donated to the channel. I appreciate it. You know, the internet was acting a little crazy. I'm glad I actually took that and clipped it, you know, and then used the video because they'll find a way to take
your
the video
voice
down.
is sounding better.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. I was messed up, man. About a week ago, man. I was messed up, man. Yeah, I had to get some ginger and honey and some green tea, man. So I feel a lot better, man. But good show, man. I appreciate you guys tuning in. MC, I'm gonna sign off, bro. I got to roll. And thank you to all the guys that tuned in. BG, all the other good brothers. Some of you guys that knew I never heard before. Carl, Carnegie, Machine, never heard from you brothers. But thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you. Watching the Kosher Clinician. I do these shows for the most part to bring awareness to male issues and male rights, and also to encourage men to do what's best for them and to live their lives on their own terms. Sadly, in a time where rationality is becoming irrational. So once again, guys, it's been a good one. MC, I'm gonna drop you down.
Guess what?
Right.
My son and his friends, they be listening to Andrew Tate for real.
Oh yeah. They like his work.
He came over there on Twitch. That's where they play video games, and that's how they got word of him. So he said a lot of his friends is starting to change their ways in high school about how the way women wants to bully them and stuff in high school. So you know that's a trip too. So our girls is starting at an early age. They practice ground is that they trying to manipulate the boys in high school. Some of them are already starting. Feminism is starting deep right over there.
Yeah, it is, man. Sadly, man. It is sadly, and like I said, a lot of guys are beginning to open up, man, and just focus on themselves because they're realizing that anything outside of that, man, is chaos and craziness and foolishness. So, but I'm gonna sign off, man. It's a pleasure seeing you, MC. I always love you coming through showing love, man. Thank you, man. Proud of the work you're doing. All right, brother, hold it down. All right, guys, we're about to sign off. Been another good show. Thank you for MC Recovery for signing in. I'm tuning in, man. You know, we're about to sign off. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for checking in. And I told you guys there's 7 steps that a man must go through in order to become optimized, and understanding how female psychology play a role on the function of a man is paramount. We always get it from the mud on this show, guys. Until next time, if it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, y'all know what time it is. It ain't right. Be well. Is before you. Choose wisely.
Money line, I'ma run it every time. Give me mine, going up, need no decline. Money line, I'ma run it every time. Give me mine, going up, need no decline. Yeah. Why check Castro, yeah, I need mine. Why check Castro, yeah, I need my money line. Why check Castro, yeah, I need my money line. Why check Castro, yeah, I need my money line. Watch out for those who surround you, need no funny kind. You can't see what's on my brain, I live inside my mind. Out of space and out of sight, you need me in my line. Need no fakes, don't need no phonies, no, no, no. Need no snakes, no only homies, down for show. On go, go, go. Get a book and get the front and we load up and roll, roll, roll. I got kids, yeah, I got staff, I make a little need more, more, more. I sell records, you sell packs, not on my level, no, no, no. I'm a pop star, I'm a rock star, I'm a winner. Think I'm not hard, you smoke rock, car waste, man, why you dumb? I'm with airline, we on airlines like we on the run. I'm with Tay, girls run up on me, they done. I'ma run it every time. Give me mine. Going up, need no decline. Money line. I'ma run it every time. Give me mine. Going up, need no decline. Yeah. Why check cash, yeah, I need my ass. Why check cash, yeah, I need my money line. Why check cash, yeah, I need my money line. Why check cash, yeah, I need my. I ran up a check, I might do it again. Enemies close, have me thinking they're friends. 10 toes down, I'll be free until the end. Crib outside the city, I don't feel safe in my hands. Took so many years, I'm just waiting for the wins. I'm in debt to no one but the one who took my sins. I do it for real, there's no reason to pretend. If I do it once, I do it again. Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up, I'm just doing me, everything is on me, no matter what. Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up. I'm just doing me, everything is on me, no matter what. Add it up. Told her if it's all me, everything is on me, gon' back it up. Matter what. Told ya I'ma do me, why you hating on me? It's not adding up. Do roll like a Mack truck, country heart, I might cop a farm and go act up. Lot of scars, I was cold-hearted, now I'm back up. Keep it real, I do this once a month, I don't rap much. I just take the money and go stack up. Only buying car, take it tatted up. All that other bull, it don't matter much. You only climb me, I put the ladders up. No fault, I done doubled up on the workload. I think I fell in love with the bankroll. Pray up, get money, then we lay low. Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up, I'm just doing me, everything is on me, no matter what. Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up, I'm just doing me, everything is on me, no matter what. Add it up. Told her if it's all me, everything is on me, gon' back it up. Matter what. Told ya I'ma do me, why you hating on me? It's not adding up. Told her if it's all me, everything is on me, gon' back it up. Matter what. Told ya I'ma do me, why you hating on me? It's not adding up. Swipe. Just picked up some bands, come again. They do what I do, I'm like Simon says. I'm the running man, rapping rubber bands. They do what I do, I'm like Simon says. They do what I do, I'm like Simon says. Swerving, making plays, Ferrari red. Never out my zone, touchdown in my hands. Only fam around me, I can't have no friends. Had to cut you off, you left me out for dead. Ever since I was a teen, had prices on my head. Had to cut you off, you left me out for dead. They do what I do, I'm like Simon says. Just picked up some bands, come again. They do what I do, I'm like Simon says. I'm the running man, rapping rubber bands. They do what I do, I'm like Simon says. Just picked up some bands, come again. They do what I do, I'm like Simon says. I'm the running man, rapping rubber bands. They do what I do, I'm like Simon says. Ballpoint on the beat, ballpoint make them dance. We came up from nothing, now we're making plans. Just picked up some bands, Tell her ask you questions when I come and grind. On the run like a runaway. Only way is the money way. New chain, no jewelry. No gaze, don't fool me. 21, been a boss. Take the game, pay the cost. Heard you rolling TikTok. Need to get another watch. Just picked up some bands, come again. They do what I do, I'm like Simon says. I'm the running man, rapping rubber bands. They do what I do, I'm like Simon says. Just picked up some bands, come again. They do what I do, I'm like Simon says. I'm the running man, rapping rubber bands. They do what I do, I'm like Simon says. Tell them run it up. I wake up. I wake up, flex, thumb down, that check. No drip, this wet. Tell them run it up. No sleep, no rest. Night crash, might wreck. But first I stretch. Tell them run it up. I wake up, flex, thumb down, that check. No drip, this wet. Tell them run it up. No sleep, no rest. Night crash, might wreck. But first I stretch. Tell them run it up. 9 out of 10 roll through my hands, I'm by my lonely. Turn to a savage, now my baby wants to hold me. I love my fans, don't need no friends, I got my homies. Thought I could trust you, I find out you tried to zone me. I'm number one up on that court, I'm Nick McGrady. The first one in, the last one out, can't call me lazy. Put in my hours, send the invoice and they pay me. I need 6 rings like MJ and Tom Brady. I wake up, flex, thumb down, that check. No drip, this wet. Tell them run it up. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck. But first I stretch. Tell them run it up. I wake up, flex, thumb down, that check. No drip, this wet. Tell them run it up. No sleep, no rest. Might